Bird of paradise moonwalks. Picture this. You're deep in the rainforests of Papua New Guinea. The air is heavy with humidity. Everything is green. And then, suddenly, ba-bam, you see what looks like a little feathery disco ball hopping around on a branch. That's a male bird of paradise putting on the performance of his life. And I mean that literally, because if his dance flops, so does his love life. So here's how it goes down. First, he finds his stage, which is usually a nice clear branch or a little patch of forest floor. He meticulously cleans it, sometimes picking off leaves and debris one by one, like a neat freak with OCD. Why? Because this is his dance floor. Can't have twigs messing up his footwork. Once the stage is set, he puffs up his feathers until he looks twice his normal size. Some species even flip their feathers into weird shapes, like circles or capes, basically turning themselves into living pieces of abstract art. Then comes the best part, the dance. The male shuffles, hops, spins, and yes, moonwalks backward in a way that makes you wonder if he's been secretly watching old concert footage. Some birds of paradise even have specific beats they follow, as if they're grooving to music only they can hear. The moves are crisp, rehearsed, and frankly, better than half of what you see on TikTok. But here's the kicker. The female just sits there watching, judging every single step. She's basically the Simon Cowell of the jungle. One sloppy hop, one missed feather flip, and she's out. The pressure is so intense that males will spend years practicing before they even dare perform in front of a female. Imagine training for a decade just to nail a single first date. Why go through all this trouble? Because in the bird of paradise world, the females are extremely picky. They choose mates based almost entirely on dance performance and feather quality. The flashier and smoother the male, the more likely he is to pass on his genes. It's survival of the fanciest. And here's a fun fact. Some birds of paradise have what scientists call a lek, basically a bird nightclub where several males gather to show off at the same time, each one trying to outdance the other. It's like a jungle version of a dance battle, and the females just hop from stage to stage watching like VIP judges. So, yeah, next time you see a guy moonwalking at a party, just remember, he might be channeling his inner bird of paradise. And who knows, maybe he's secretly trying to find a mate, too.
Mannequin backflips. What's more impressive than a backflip? Doing one in the middle of a jungle, on a slippery branch, while trying to flirt. That's exactly what the mannequin bird does, and it's pure gold. Imagine you're walking through the rainforest, and you hear a weird popping sound, almost like someone snapping their fingers in rhythm. You follow the sound and find a little black and yellow bird hopping around like it's had 5 cups of espresso. That's a male mannequin, and he's just warming up. Here's the thing. Mannequins are basically the gymnasts of the bird world. When it's showtime, The male picks a nice branch, gotta have good grip, and starts showing off by doing literal backflips from one perch to another. Not just once, not twice, sometimes a whole series of flips, like he's competing for a perfect 10 from the judges. And it's not random chaos. The moves are part of a carefully choreographed routine. He lands on one branch, flips to another, hops, spins, and then flips back, all with precision that would make an Olympic coach proud. Some species even do it as a duo. Two males perform together in perfect synchronization, like a jungle Cirque du Soleil. The sound effects are half the fun. Mannequins use their wings to make snapping and buzzing noises, which is like adding percussion to their own performance. It's almost like they're beatboxing while flipping. And yes, females are watching this the whole time, silently judging, because in the mannequin world, only the most flawless routine earns her attention. Here's the wild part. These guys spend an insane amount of time practicing. Young males actually watch the older pros and slowly learn the moves over years. It's basically a bird dance school. So when you finally see a male nailing a perfect backflip routine, you're watching the end result of months or even years of trial and error. From an evolutionary perspective, this is all about proving fitness. The better the dance, the healthier and more coordinated the male must be. If he can stick the landing after a backflip, he probably has good genes. And that's exactly what the female wants for her future chicks. And honestly, it works. Studies have shown that females overwhelmingly pick the flashiest, most skillful dancers. It's like nature's version of Dancing with the Stars, except the prize is fatherhood. Now, imagine if human dating worked this way. You'd have to bust out a gymnastics routine every time you asked someone out. Dinner and a movie. Forget it. Better stretch first.
Western grebe. You know that scene in romantic movies where the couple runs toward each other in slow motion? Western grebes do that, but on water. And they don't just meet in the middle. They run side by side, perfectly in sync, like feathered figure skaters. Meet the western grebe, a sleek water bird that takes synchronized swimming to a whole new level. When it's mating season, these birds put on a performance that looks like something straight out of a nature documentary choreographed by Broadway. Here's what happens. First, a pair of grebes meets up and decides to test the chemistry. They do this by mirroring each other's movements, diving together, turning together, even dipping their heads in unison. If they're feeling the vibe, it escalates into what might be one of the most spectacular courtship displays in the animal kingdom, the water dance. This is where things get dramatic. Both birds suddenly rise up on their back legs, yes, on water and start sprinting across the surface side by side. And we're not talking about a clumsy paddle. They literally run. Their bodies almost vertical, their wings slightly spread, their necks stretched forward like little ballerinas charging into the spotlight. The effect is mesmerizing. They move in perfect unison, each step sending tiny splashes flying, creating a trail of glittering droplets behind them. They can run for several meters this way, which is incredible considering, well, they're birds, and water is not exactly the most stable running track. The point of all this? It's not just for fun, though it's definitely fun to watch. This is the ultimate compatibility test. If both birds can stay in sync for the entire run, it means they're well-matched partners, physically strong, coordinated, and ready to raise a family together. Think of it as the bird version of couples therapy, except instead of talking about your feelings, you just run across a lake together. And if you're wondering how hard this is, imagine trying to run on a pool without sinking. Grebes have evolved super strong legs and unique foot placement that lets them slap the water surface fast enough to stay up. It's like a magic trick or a very intense cardio workout. Satin bowerbird decorating. Ever meet a guy who tries to impress a date by cleaning his room and showing off his collectibles? Satin bowerbirds do that, except their room is a carefully decorated bachelor pad in the middle of the forest, and they have a very specific obsession: the color blue. The satin bowerbird is a small, shiny black bird with a serious case of interior decorating fever. When it's time to find a mate, the male doesn't just fluff his feathers and sing a little tune. Oh no, he becomes a full-on artist, architect, and hoarder. Step 1, build the bower. This isn't a nest, that comes later, but a kind of love lounge. 2 parallel walls made of twigs forming a little corridor. He weaves and arranges each stick carefully until it's symmetrical and just the right size. Think of it as a DIY project, except the stakes are whether you'll pass on your genes. Then comes the fun part, decorating. The male goes out into the world and collects anything blue he can find. And I mean anything. Blue flowers, blue berries, blue feathers, even human trash like bottle caps, plastic straws, pen caps, or bits of blue paper. If it's blue, it's going in the bower. The result looks like a tiny art installation in the middle of the forest. Some bowers are so carefully curated that scientists have compared them to modern art galleries. The male will arrange the blue items in a way that highlights them best, even putting bigger objects in the back and smaller ones in the front to create a forced perspective. Yes, he's literally inventing optical illusions to make his bower look bigger and fancier. When a female comes by, the male performs his courtship display inside or near the bower, hopping around, fluttering his wings, and sometimes holding one of the blue objects in his beak as a kind of prop. It's like a home tour combined with a dance audition. But here's the brutal part. The female judges everything. If the bower is messy, if the colors aren't arranged nicely, if the dance routine is sloppy, she just leaves. No second chances. The competition is fierce, too.
Males will sometimes sneak over to a rival's bower and trash it like jealous teenagers, stealing the best blue objects to improve their own setup. This means some males spend hours every day repairing and recurating their masterpiece. So, why blue? Scientists think females prefer it because it's rare in the forest and stands out vividly. A male that can find and collect lots of blue objects shows he's clever, persistent, and healthy. Good traits for a father. Basically, satin bower birds are living proof that presentation matters. It's not just about showing up. It's about having the best decorated bachelor pad in the neighborhood.
Flamingo mass dances. Ever been to a party where everyone just suddenly starts dancing in sync? Flamingos do that, but theirs isn't a TikTok trend. It's a massive feathery flash mob designed to find love. Flamingos might look like quiet, elegant birds just standing around in shallow water, but when mating season comes, they turn into the ultimate dance troupe. Instead of one-on-one courtship like most animals, flamingos prefer to go big, as in hundreds of birds dancing together all at once. Here's how it starts. The entire flock begins to gather, almost like they've received an invitation. Then, out of nowhere, the head bobbing begins. Every flamingo starts pumping its head up and down in perfect rhythm, as if some invisible DJ just dropped the beat. But that's just the warm-up. Soon they add in synchronized wing flashing, spreading their bright pink wings to show off the black tips, and even marching around in circles. The effect is mesmerizing. Hundreds of pink birds strutting together like they're in a runway show. And get this, the whole point of the mass dance is to make sure everyone's hormones sync up. By performing together, the entire flock is triggered to start producing the right hormones at the same time. This means they'll all be ready to lay eggs at roughly the same time, which is safer. There's less chance that predators will wipe out all the chicks if everyone's hatching together. From an evolutionary standpoint, this group performance is genius. It helps maintain flock cohesion, ensures genetic mixing, and makes sure no one is left single when it's time to mate. Plus, it looks amazing. Females use these dances to pick out the most vigorous, enthusiastic dancers. A male who barely lifts his head or misses a few wing flaps is basically saying, "I'm not that into this." The females notice, and they move on to the guy who's really given it his all. Sometimes rival groups of flamingos even compete to see which group has the best moves. Picture hundreds of flamingos in one corner of the lake trying to outdance hundreds in another corner. It's like a dance battle, but with way more feathers. And yes, this whole thing can last for hours, sometimes days, until pair bonds form. Once couples have matched up, they leave the dance floor, the lake floor, and start preparing to nest together. It's hard not to love how flamboyant flamingos are about the whole process. They don't hide their romance, they turn it into a spectacle. And honestly, can you blame them? When you're that fabulously pink, you might as well make dating season look like a Vegas show. Albatross choreography. Some couples take dance lessons before their wedding. Albatrosses? They spend years perfecting their routine. Because when you're picking a mate for life, you better make sure you've got the steps right. Albatrosses are the drama queens of the open ocean, with wingspans that can reach over 10 feet. But what really sets them apart isn't just their size, it's their love story. These birds are famous for forming lifelong pair bonds, and they don't just casually pick a partner. They work at it, year after year, through a process that is basically the bird equivalent of ballroom dance training. Here's how it works. When young albatrosses are ready to start thinking about romance, they hang out in big groups near breeding colonies. At first, they practice little pieces of the courtship dance by themselves or with other young birds. These aren't real mating attempts. They're like awkward high schoolers practicing how to ask someone to prom. Once they start getting good, things get serious. A young albatross will focus on one potential partner and begin a courtship process that can take multiple years. Together, they build a dance, a unique choreography full of moves like bill clacking, literally tapping their beaks together like castanets, sky pointing, stretching their necks and aiming their bills toward the sky, wing spreading and goofy little bowing motions. And here's the key. Every pair's dance is slightly different. No two are exactly the same. Over time, they refine it until it becomes their dance, a personal love language that they'll use every time they reunite. Why go through all this trouble? Because raising an albatross chick is a massive time investment. It takes months to feed and raise just one. So both parents need to be totally committed and in sync. The dance is essentially a compatibility test. If they can perfect their choreography together, they can probably survive chick rearing without bailing on each other. Once the pair bonds, that's it. They're together for life. And when they return to the breeding grounds year after year, they find each other in the massive colony, sometimes after months of flying thousands of miles apart, and they dance again. The reunion dances are honestly adorable, like couples who still slow dance in the kitchen after 30 years of marriage. Scientists who study albatrosses say these dances are so reliable that you can identify a pair just by watching their routine. Imagine if your neighbors knew who you were dating just by the way you two high-fived every morning. It's sweet, it's elegant, and it's a reminder that even in the wild, love takes work and a really good sense of rhythm. Lyrebird sound imitations. If talent shows existed in the animal kingdom, the lyrebird would win every season. Why? Because this feathered mimic can copy nearly any sound it hears, from other birds to car alarms, all to impress a date. Lyrebirds are native to Australia, and they look fairly ordinary at first glance. Brownish, long-tailed birds that hang out in the forest, but don't let their plain looks fool you. These birds are basically walking feathered recording studios. During mating season, the male lyrebird chooses a nice open spot, usually a mound of dirt or a cleared patch of forest floor, and begins his performance. And oh boy, it's not just singing, it's a full-on audio montage. He starts by mimicking the calls of other birds around him, parrots, kookaburras, magpies, often so perfectly that it confuses the real birds. But that's just the warm-up. Lyrebirds can imitate practically anything they hear in their environment. Chainsaws? Check. Camera shutters and motor drives? Check. Car alarms, barking dogs, human voices, even construction sounds. Yep, all of those have been recorded coming out of a lyrebird's beak. There's a famous clip of one imitating a camera so accurately that even the click and film advance sound are perfect. If you're under 25, just Google film camera sound. The whole point of this incredible vocal range is to show off to the ladies. A male with a huge repertoire of sounds is seen as more experienced, healthy, and intelligent. Basically, he's showing that he's been around, survived long enough to learn all these sounds, and has great lungs and brain power to pull it off. And yes, the females are picky. They don't just want a guy who can do bird calls. They want a guy who can mix them into a smooth, seamless performance. It's not enough to just copy a kookaburra. He has to transition into a chainsaw, throw in a parrot squawk, and maybe finish with a perfect whistle. It's like a DJ set but for love. The tail feathers add to the show. The lyrebird's tail has a beautiful lyre-like shape, hence the name. And during his performance, he fans it out like a peacock, adding dramatic flair to the concert. From a human perspective, this is both hilarious and genius. Imagine trying to impress someone by perfectly imitating the sound of their phone notification tone, and then a chainsaw, and then a whole car alarm, while looking fabulous at the same time. Lyrebirds remind us that sometimes the best way to get attention isn't with flashy colors or dance moves, but with a killer playlist, even if that playlist includes power tools.
Peacock spider breakdance. Tiny spider or professional backup dancer. The peacock spider blurs the line. And yes, this little guy literally breakdances to avoid getting eaten by his date. First of all, let's talk about how small these guys are. Peacock spiders are so tiny they could sit comfortably on your fingernail. But when it's time to find love, they put on one of the most over-the-top courtship displays in the animal kingdom. Here's the setup. A male finds a female hanging out on a leaf or branch, and instead of just strolling over and saying hi, he goes full America's Got Talent. He lifts his brilliantly colored abdomen, which looks like a little rainbow disco shield, and starts to dance. And when I say dance, I mean dance. He waves his legs in the air, vibrates his abdomen, and taps the ground rhythmically as if he's keeping time with a beat only he can hear. The whole thing looks a lot like a tiny fuzzy DJ at a silent rave. What's wild is how coordinated this is. The male has to perform everything in a very specific order. Flash the colors, wave the legs, and tap just right, or the female might lose interest. And here's the twist. If she loses interest too much, she might just decide to eat him instead. No pressure, right? Scientists have studied these dances in slow motion, and it turns out there's a real pattern to the moves. Each species of peacock spider has its own unique choreography, so females can recognize who's who. Some species even have males that jump and spin midair, which is equal parts impressive and risky, because one wrong landing and the performance is over. The colors themselves are stunning. The male's abdomen shimmers with iridescent blues and reds and golds, making him look like a living jewel. When the sun hits just right, it's like watching a microscopic light show. If the female is impressed, she signals her approval by staying still and allowing the male to approach. If she isn't, well, he better get out of there fast before she decides he'd make a nice snack. It's basically So You Think You Can Dance meets Survivor. From an evolutionary perspective, this whole breakdancing routine proves two things: that the male is healthy enough to grow those vibrant colors and coordinated enough to pull off the dance without tripping. Both are great signs for producing strong spider babies. Humans might bring flowers or send cute texts. Peacock spiders, they moonwalk across a leaf while flashing neon colors. Honestly, it makes most human dating look boring by comparison. Rough bird. What happens when the popular guy at the party lets a wingman hang around to make him look good, only for the wingman to swoop in and get the girl? That's basically the love life of the ruff, a bird with one of the weirdest team-up strategies in the animal kingdom. Ruffs are medium-sized shorebirds with one major claim to fame. The males grow extravagant neck feathers during mating season that make them look like they're wearing Elizabethan collars. It's as if they're constantly cosplaying Shakespeare. Here's where things get fun. In most bird species, dominant males guard territories and fight rivals off. But in ruffs, there's a twist. Some males, known as satellite males, are born with a different strategy entirely. Instead of fighting for their own territory, they team up with a dominant male who already has a prime display spot. The dominant male struts around showing off his big fancy ruff, doing dramatic poses and dances to attract females. The satellite male hangs around nearby, kind of like a hype man. He doesn't have as dramatic feathers, but he helps lure in more females by adding extra movement and interest to the display area. It's like putting two good dancers on the stage instead of one. The whole scene just looks livelier. But here's the sneaky part. Once females show up, the satellite male sometimes sneaks quick matings while the dominant male is distracted. It's a win-win. Well, mostly a win for the satellite male. The dominant male gets more female visitors overall, but he also loses a few opportunities because his assistant takes advantage of the moment. What's fascinating is that this isn't rare. In fact, the satellite strategy is a stable part of rough society. Scientists call this an evolutionarily stable strategy. In other words, there are always going to be some dominant males and satellites because the system works for both. Even wilder, there's a third type of male called a fader, which is basically a master of disguise. Faders are males that look exactly like females. Same size, same coloration. They can wander into a display area without being challenged by the dominant male, then sneak in a quick mating when no one's looking. It's basically a soap opera out there. Flashy show-offs, sneaky sidekicks, and undercover agents, all trying to pass on their genes. If you think about it, Ruffs invented the original wingman strategy, except the wingman occasionally gets the girl himself.
Red-capped mannequin. If you thought Michael Jackson invented the moonwalk, think again. The red-capped mannequin was sliding backward across branches long before pop music was even a thing. The red-capped mannequin is a tiny bird from Central and South America, and it might just be the smoothest animal on the planet. The males have a bright crimson head, black body, and a serious need to impress. And when the time comes to find a mate, they don't just sing or dance, they moonwalk. Here's how it works. The male picks a horizontal branch as his stage. Then, he shuffles backward so smoothly it looks like someone pressed rewind on reality. No hopping, no clumsy footwork, just a perfect glide backward. Feet moving so fast they're a blur. And he doesn't stop there. He hops back to the starting point and does it again, and again, and again. It's a full routine, often with little wind flashes, side hops, and quick tick-tick sounds made by snapping their wings together. Some scientists say the rhythm is so consistent it's almost musical, which is fitting, since this bird is basically performing a concert dance hybrid for his date. The female watches all this from a nearby perch, judging every move. If she likes what she sees, she sticks around and gives the green light. If not, she flies away, leaving the poor guy to practice some more. And yes, just like in real life, practice makes perfect. Younger males spend years rehearsing until their moonwalks are as smooth as butter. The craziest part? These birds are tiny, about the size of a sparrow. So watching one moonwalk on a skinny branch feels like watching a very delicate circus act. One wrong step and it could end with a not-so-graceful tumble. Scientists believe this whole performance is a way for females to gauge the male's coordination, energy, and overall health. A bird that can glide perfectly backward, stay balanced, and keep the rhythm probably has great reflexes and strong genetics. Exactly what you'd want in a father for your chicks. And of course, there's a bit of competition. Multiple males often perform on nearby branches, essentially turning the forest into a dance-off. Picture a jungle talent show with a panel of female judges. Only the smoothest, slickest moonwalker wins the prize. So next time you see someone bust out the moonwalk on a dance floor, just remember they're channeling a little red-capped mannequin energy. And in this case, dancing isn't just about style. It's literally a matter of life, love, and baby birds.
Great gray shrikes. Some guys bring flowers on a first date. Great gray shrikes? They bring you a kebab. And by kebab, I mean a freshly impaled mouse or grasshopper skewered on a thorn. Romantic, right? Meet the great gray shrike, a small but fierce bird, often nicknamed the butcher bird. And trust me, it's not just a cool name. This little predator really does behave like a teeny winged butcher. Here's the scene. A male shrike is looking for a mate. He could just sing a song like most other birds, but no, that would be too basic. Instead, he heads out to hunt. He catches insects, lizards, small mammals, and sometimes even other birds. Yes, he's that hardcore. But he doesn't just eat them right away. Instead, he takes his prey and impales it on something sharp. A thorn, a barbed wire fence, a cactus spine, basically anything pointy. This creates what scientists call a larder, which is a polite way of saying a gruesome collection of corpses. Picture a tiny horror movie scene, but with perfect presentation. Once he has a nice little collection, the male uses this display to attract females. It's like he's saying, "Look how good I am at hunting. I can provide for you and our future chicks." The better stocked and more diverse the murder bouquet, the more impressed the female tends to be. This isn't just random carnage either. Shrikes are surprisingly picky about presentation. They'll sometimes organize the prey neatly, almost like a macabre buffet line. Some males even prefer to display their biggest or most dangerous catches up front, just to show off how skilled they are. If the female likes what she sees, she'll stick around, and sometimes test the male by eating from his gruesome pantry. If she's satisfied with the menu, literally, she may choose him as a mate. It sounds dark, but this behavior actually has a practical side. Impaling prey
help shrikes handle food that might otherwise be too big or dangerous to eat safely. By pinning it down, they can tear it apart more easily. So, what looks like serial killer behavior is really just smart food prep, with a bonus side effect of being an irresistible dating strategy. And yes, rival males will sometimes steal from each other's larders, which leads to some feathery turf wars. Imagine someone stealing your romantic picnic setup and claiming it was theirs. That's the Shrike version of drama. So next time you think your dating life is weird, remember, at least no one has ever tried to impress you by skewering a mouse on a thorn.
Dance flies, balloon gifts. Ever been on a date where someone brought you a fancy gift box only to find out it was empty? Dance flies have been pulling that trick for millions of years, and somehow it still works. Dance flies are tiny, delicate insects you might not notice buzzing around until you see their bizarre mating ritual. When it's time to impress a female, the male doesn't just show up empty-handed. He goes hunting for a present, usually a juicy insect, to offer as a token of affection. But here's where things get weird. Instead of just handing it over like a normal guy, he takes the prey and wraps it up in silk, spinning it into what looks like a tiny balloon. This is his courting gift, part food, part romantic gesture, part advertisement that says, "Look at me, I'm a good provider." The female inspects the balloon before deciding whether to mate with him. If she likes it, she accepts the gift, they mate, and she eats the prey while he transfers sperm. It's basically dinner and a date rolled into one, a very efficient setup. But not every male plays fair. Some will take a worthless object, a piece of plant, a tiny pebble, or literally nothing, and wrap it in silk to make it look impressive. This empty gift trick saves the male time and energy while still fooling some females into mating with him. Scientists have actually watched males present completely empty silk balloons, and sometimes the females fall for it. It's a risky move, though. If the female figures out there's no tasty snack inside, she may cut the mating short or reject him entirely. In a way, it's nature's version of catfishing. What's fascinating is that females still seem to prefer males that bring gifts, even if there's a risk it might be fake. Over time, this behavior has become an important part of sexual selection for the species. In some dancefly species, females even have puffy, feathery legs that make them look bigger and hungrier, which pressures males to bring even bigger gifts. It's an arms race of deceit and expectations. And yes, they actually dance. Before offering the gift, males often hover and twirl mid-air, showing off their balloon from different angles like a proud jewelry salesman. It's all about the presentation. From a human perspective, this is hilariously relatable. Imagine someone giving you a beautifully wrapped box on a date. You open it, expecting chocolate or jewelry, and find air. But by that point, you've already agreed to dinner.
Thence flies might be tiny, but their love lives are filled with romance, trickery, and just a bit of scam artistry, proving that flashy gifts can get you pretty far, even if they're sometimes a total rip-off.
Adelie Penguin Pebble Proposals. Some guys buy engagement rings. Adelie penguins? They go rock shopping, literally, and present the perfect pebble to win a mate's heart. Adelie penguins are the little tuxedo-wearing residents of Antarctica. And when it's time to find a partner, they've got one of the sweetest and simplest courtship rituals in the animal kingdom. No flowers, no chocolate, no moonwalk dancing, just a rock. Here's how it works. A male Adelie penguin spends a lot of time searching for the perfect pebble. Not too big, not too small, nice and smooth. Think of it as the penguin version of diamond hunting. Once he finds the right one, he waddles over to the female he's trying to impress and gently offers it to her. If she likes the pebble, she takes it and places it in her nest. And boom, he's basically just been accepted. If she doesn't like it, she might ignore him or even toss the pebble aside like, "Try again." And yes, males will absolutely go back and look for another, better one. It's all about finding the right stone to say, "I'd like to start a family with you." But here's the twist. It's not just romantic. Pebbles are extremely valuable in the Adelie penguin world. They build their nests out of them to keep their eggs up off the cold, wet ground. A good nest with lots of pebbles means a much better chance that the eggs will survive. So by bringing a nice pebble, the male is showing he's a good provider and would be a strong partner in chick raising. The competition can get fierce. Some males spend hours stealing pebbles from their neighbors' nests when no one's looking. This leads to some pretty hilarious penguin soap opera drama. One penguin steals a pebble, the neighbor squawks angrily, maybe chases him, and then later steals it back. It's a never-ending cycle of rock theft. Scientists have even observed pebble trading, where a male will bring multiple stones to a female one by one as if trying to sweeten the deal. The more pebbles he contributes, the more interested she becomes. It's basically the most adorable bartering system ever. From a human perspective, it's ridiculously charming. Imagine if your proposal involved going outside, finding the most Instagram-worthy rock you could find, and handing it over as a token of love. Honestly, it sounds kind of romantic and a lot cheaper than a diamond ring. So next time you see a penguin carefully waddling with a pebble in its beak, just know that you're watching one of nature's cutest love stories in action. That little rock isn't just a rock. It's a proposal, a promise, and the first step in building a happy and very rocky home together.
Great bowerbirds perspective tricks. You know those Instagram influencers who use angles to make their apartment look way bigger than it really is. Great bowerbirds invented that trick thousands of years before social media. Great bowerbirds are the ultimate illusionists of the bird world. Like their cousins, the satin bowerbirds, they don't just sing to attract mates. They build elaborate, bachelors-only hangouts called bowers. These are not nests, but carefully constructed display arenas where all the action happens. But great bowerbirds take things to the next level with one genius trick: forced perspective. Here's the setup. The male builds two parallel walls of sticks, forming a kind of avenue or tunnel, and then clears out the space in front of it to create his stage. Once the construction is finished, he starts decorating. Oh no, he's got a plan. He carefully places stones, shells, bones, and other objects in size order, smallest near the entrance, biggest near the far end of the bower. To a casual observer, or to a female bowerbird standing at the entrance, this creates a perfect optical illusion. The floor looks uniform, and the whole bower seems much larger than it actually is. In other words, this little bird is using geometry and perspective to trick the female into thinking his construction skills and, by extension, his genetic quality are superior. This is the bird equivalent of using a wide-angle lens in your real estate listing. When the female arrives, the male puts on a show, hopping around the bower, picking up objects, and presenting them dramatically. All of this happens while she stands at the entrance, the exact vantage point where the illusion works best. If she steps inside and starts exploring, it means she's impressed. If not, well, back to rearranging pebbles until he gets it right. And here's the kicker. Scientists have tested this. When researchers went in and messed up the carefully arranged floor by randomizing the objects, the males actually went back and spent hours resorting them by size to restore the illusion. They're basically tiny OCD architects, making sure their gallery is perfect before opening night. This whole strategy tells the female that the male is clever, hard-working, and has good spatial awareness, all of which translate to good survival skills and better genes for her chicks. So not only are great bowerbirds decorators, they're also early masters of optical illusions. Next time you see a room tour on social media that somehow makes a shoebox apartment look like a mansion, just remember, some little bird in Australia was doing the same thing long before humans thought it was clever.
Katydids as food donors. Dinner and a date at the same time? Katydids have mastered it, except their version of fancy dining is a little biological. Katydids, those green leaf-shaped insects you often hear chirping at night, have a very unusual approach to romance. When it's time to mate, the male doesn't just bring flowers or serenade the female, though his singing is impressive. He brings food, or more accurately, he becomes the food. Here's how it works. When a male katydid mates with a female, he transfers not just sperm, but a special edible package called a spermatophylax. It's basically a nutrient-rich, jelly-like blob that the female immediately starts eating as soon as mating begins. Think of it like a protein shake, but one designed specifically to keep the female distracted while the sperm makes its way into her reproductive tract. The longer she spends eating the spermatophylax, the more time the sperm has to get where it needs to go. It's a clever little strategy that improves the male's odds of fathering her next batch of eggs. But it's not just a distraction. This gift is packed with nutrients, proteins and amino acids that actually help the female produce healthier eggs. In some species, this contribution can be so significant that females seek out the males who provide the biggest, juiciest spermatophylaxes. That means males compete by offering the best love snack possible. Producing this edible package is costly for the male. It uses up a lot of his resources, so it's like he's saying, "Look how much I'm willing to invest in our future kids." A male that can produce a large spermatophylax multiple times in a season is basically showing off that he's in excellent health. Of course, not every female is impressed by just any offering. Some will actually reject smaller spermatophylaxes or even eat them quickly and then run off to find another mate, essentially double-dipping the buffet line. This behavior has led to what scientists call sexual selection pressure. pushing males to evolve bigger and more nutritious packages over time. From an evolutionary perspective, it's a win-win. The female gets a free meal that helps her produce more eggs, and the male gets more of his sperm used. Some researchers even joke that katydid mating is one of the few examples of true romantic dinner dates in the insect world. Imagine if humans worked this way. Instead of bringing flowers, you'd have to bring a giant protein bar that your date eats while you talk, and your romantic success depends on how tasty it is. No pressure. Katydids remind us that sometimes the way to someone's heart really is through their stomach, even if the meal comes straight from the guy who's wooing you.
Scorpion flies as nuptial hunters. Some guys bring flowers. Some bring chocolate. Male scorpion flies? They'd show up to the date with a freshly caught corpse. Romantic? Well, in their world, absolutely. Scorpion flies get their name from the curved tail of the male, which looks a bit like a scorpion stinger. Don't worry, it doesn't actually sting. These little insects are masters of a very macabre love language, hunting gifts. When it's time to impress a female, a male scorpion fly heads out and catches another insect, often a fly or a small bug, and brings it back as a present. The bigger and juicier the prey, the better. Once he's got his prize, he holds it up in his jaws and presents it to the female, basically saying, "Look what I got for you." If she's interested, she takes the offering and starts to eat while he mates with her. The longer it takes her to finish the snack, the more time he has to transfer sperm. And yes, this means the quality of the gift directly affects his success. A tiny little bug might only get him a quick mating before she loses interest and walks away. But a large, protein-packed meal can keep her occupied long enough for him to maximize his chances of fathering her eggs. There's even a dark side to this courtship. If a male can't find suitable prey, he might offer something less impressive, like a dead insect he scavenged instead of hunted. Some will even try to trick females by presenting a worthless item or just a piece of an insect, hoping she'll be distracted long enough to mate. Females, however, are not easily fooled. They'll often inspect the gift carefully before committing. This whole ritual has led to what scientists call nuptial feeding, a fascinating behavior where food becomes literal currency for romance. It's such a big deal in scorpion flies that males who fail to bring any offering at all are almost always rejected. No dinner, no date, no exceptions. From an evolutionary perspective, this makes perfect sense. A male who can catch prey demonstrates hunting skills and good health, exactly the traits a female wants in the father of her offspring. Plus, the gift directly benefits her by giving her extra energy to produce eggs. From a human point of view, it's both creepy and kind of hilarious. Imagine showing up to a first date holding a dead rabbit and saying, "Here, I got this for you." Okay, maybe not hilarious for the rabbit, but you get the idea. Scorpion flies remind us that romance in the animal kingdom can be surprisingly practical and a little gory. In their world, the way to win someone over is simple. Show up with food, keep them fed, and hope they let you stick around long enough to seal the deal.
Nursery web spiders gift wrap prey. Some guys show up to a date with a wrapped box of chocolates. Male nursery web spiders do the same thing, except their chocolates are dead flies, and the box is made of silk. Nursery web spiders are not just skilled hunters, they're also surprisingly thoughtful suitors. When it's time to find a mate, the male doesn't just wander up and hope for the best. He goes shopping first. Well, hunting. Step 1. Catch some prey. It could be a fly, a small insect, something bite-sized but appealing. Once the male has his meal, he gets to work on step 2, wrapping it up like a creepy little present. Using his silk, he carefully spins the insect until it's fully enclosed, creating what scientists call a nuptial gift. This silk wrapping isn't just for show. It keeps the prey fresh, prevents it from drying out, and makes it easier for the female to carry away. It's basically spider gift wrap, functional and fancy at the same time. Once the gift is ready, the male approaches the female with extreme caution. This isn't just shyness, it's self-preservation. Female spiders are much larger and have a bit of a reputation for eating males if they're not impressed. So he waves his gift in front of her like a peace offering. Please don't eat me, eat this instead. If the female accepts the gift, she grabs it and starts unwrapping it like it's Christmas morning. While she's busy eating, the male mates with her quickly and carefully, often backing away the moment he's done. Here's where it gets really fascinating. Some male nursery web spiders have been caught cheating. Instead of catching a real insect, they'll sometimes wrap up something worthless, like a piece of plant material or even an empty silk package, just to trick the female into accepting it. Scientists call these cheater gifts, and they can still work as long as the female is distracted long enough for mating to happen. But females are getting wise to this trick. If she realizes the gift is fake before he's finished, she might cut him off early, literally, and sometimes even eat him for good measure. So yes, lying about what's in the box can be a very risky move. From an evolutionary point of view, this whole gift-giving ritual is genius. It ensures that females get extra nutrition, boosting their ability to produce eggs, and rewards males who are skilled hunters, or at least skilled at wrapping convincing fakes. It's both darkly funny and strangely sweet. In a way, nursery web spiders are just practicing good dating etiquette. Bring a gift, be polite, and try not to get murdered halfway through the date.
Cicada killer wasps present corpses. Some flowers and chocolates for a date? Boring. Cicada killer wasps show up with something way more dramatic. A full-sized, paralyzed cicada, gift-wrapped in sheer terror. Cicada killer wasps are some of the most intimidating insects you'll ever see. They're big, fast, and have a name that sounds like it came straight out of a horror movie. But for these wasps, killing cicadas isn't just a pastime. It's part of their mating ritual. Here's the scene. It's summer. The cicadas are buzzing loudly in the trees, and a female cicada color is on the hunt. She spots her target, swoops in, and stings it with military precision. The sting doesn't kill the cicada. It paralyzes it completely. The cicada is still alive, but can't move, making it a perfect fresh meal that won't spoil. Then comes the hard part, transport. A cicada can be just as big, sometimes bigger, than the wasp itself. But this doesn't stop her. She grabs her prize and starts dragging or even flying with it back to her burrow. This trip can be long and exhausting, but she doesn't give up because what's waiting at the end of the tunnel is the next generation of wasps. Here's where the courtship gift part comes in. The female stores the paralyzed cicada inside her underground burrow and lays an egg on it. When the egg hatches, the larva has a fresh, living meal to feed on, kind of like a grisly baby shower gift from mom. Now, males get in on the action too, but in a slightly different way. During the mating season, males patrol territories near good hunting grounds and often use the burrows as display sites to attract females. By presenting a well-stocked burrow, complete with paralyzed cicadas, a male shows he's a prime partner. After all, what better way to say, "I'm good father material," than by already having a pantry full of food ready for your future kids? This gruesome strategy is actually incredibly effective. A female choosing a male with a burrow full of fresh cicadas is essentially guaranteeing her offspring will have the best start in life, which is exactly what evolution rewards. From a human perspective, it's undeniably creepy. Imagine someone wooing you by showing off a fridge full of live but immobilized steaks. But in the wasp world, this is top-tier romance. It's both practical and a little horrifying, which might be the perfect way to describe a lot of insect dating habits. So while cicada killers might look like villains from a nightmare, they're really just dedicated parents-to-be. Ones who bring the ultimate corpse and chill vibe to the dating scene.
Bush cricket, nutritious semen. Some dates end with dessert. Bush cricket mating ends with the female literally eating part of the male's reproductive gift. And yes, this is exactly as wild as it sounds. Bush crickets might look like ordinary long-leg insects hiding in the grass, but their love lives are anything but ordinary. When a male bush cricket gets lucky enough to find a receptive female, he doesn't just pass along sperm, he gives her a 2-in-1 package deal called a spermatophore. Think of the spermatophore as a little protein-packed pouch that contains both the sperm and a gelatinous, highly nutritious snack attached to it. After mating, the female actually sits down and eats this nutrient-rich blob called a spermatophylax. It sounds strange, but this edible gift has two major benefits. First, it distracts the female. While she's busy enjoying her post-mating meal, the sperm from the spermatophore has time to move into her reproductive tract without being removed or wasted. Second, it's basically a protein shake for egg production. The more nutritious the spermatophylax, the better the eggs she'll lay. This means males with bigger, more nutritious gifts have a reproductive advantage. They're more likely to father more offspring. In fact, some females will actively seek out males who offer the biggest spermatophores because they get a free nutrient boost every time they mate. In species where females can mate multiple times, this can turn into a literal mating buffet, where females pick partners not just for their genes, but also for the quality of the snack they bring to the table. Producing these packages isn't easy for the male, though. Making a big spermatophore is energetically expensive,
meaning he has to be well-fed and healthy to create one that will impress a female. If he mates too frequently, the size of his gifts starts to shrink, which makes him less attractive until he's had time to recover. And yes, there is a bit of drama here too. Some males try to cheat the system by making slightly smaller gifts when resources are low, hoping the female won't notice. But females do notice, and they can even cut the mating short if they don't think the snack is worth it. Talk about picky diners. From an evolutionary perspective, this is actually a genius system. It ensures that females get extra nutrition when it matters most, while they're producing eggs. And it rewards males who are strong and healthy enough to provide high-quality spermatophores. From a human point of view, it's, well, a little weird. Imagine if dating came with a built-in post-romance protein bar that also decided whether the date was a success. Efficient? Absolutely. Slightly creepy? Definitely. Bush crickets prove that in the insect world, sometimes the way to a partner's heart really is through their stomach, even if the meal is part of the mating process itself.
Carrion beetle. Nothing says true love like digging a grave together. At least, that's how carrion beetles kick off their relationships. Carrion beetles are those shiny black and orange beetles you sometimes see on dead animals, and their mating ritual is as morbid as it is fascinating. For these beetles, romance begins not with flowers or a song, but with a shared home improvement project, and the home happens to be a rotting corpse. Here's how it works. A male and female carrion beetle locate a small dead animal, a mouse, a bird, even a frog. Then, instead of just feasting on it, they do something truly strange. They bury it. Yes, you read that right. They actually work together to dig out the soil underneath the carcass, gradually lowering it into the ground. They keep going until the dead animal is fully buried, like a tiny funeral service, with two very dedicated undertakers. But this isn't about paying respects. This is about starting a family. Once the carcass is underground, the beetle pair prepares it for their future offspring. They strip off fur or feathers and roll the body into a compact ball and coat it with antibacterial secretions to slow decomposition. It's basically corpse preservation, beetle style. This whole process acts as their version of a bonding activity. The digging, the prepping, the corpse wrapping, it all helps cement the pair's partnership. And once they're satisfied with their work, they mate right there near the buried treasure. What happens next is one of the coolest examples of insect parenting. The female lays her eggs near the preserved carcass, and when the larvae hatch, the parents actually stick around to take care of them, something pretty rare for insects. They feed the larvae by regurgitating partially digested meat, yum, and even defend the carcass against intruders, including rival beetles that might try to steal it. It's one of the few insect species where both parents are involved in raising the kids. In fact, scientists have found that beetle pairs who work well together during the burial process are more likely to succeed at raising a healthy brood. If a male or female isn't pulling their weight during the grave digging phase, the partnership can actually break up before eggs are laid. Talk about a compatibility test.
From an evolutionary standpoint, this gruesome little ritual is brilliant. By burying the carcass, the beetles keep it safe from scavengers and stop it from rotting too quickly, ensuring their larvae have a reliable food source. From a human perspective, it's both sweet and a little creepy. Imagine your first date involving digging a giant hole together to bury dinner before you even eat it.
Moth love potions. Forget dating apps. Some moths just throw their profile into the wind, and potential partners miles away come flying straight to them. Moths may seem like quiet, unassuming creatures fluttering around your porch light, but when it comes to romance, they pull off one of the most impressive long-distance dating moves in Animal Kingdom. Instead of dancing or singing to attract mates, many male moths rely on chemistry, literally. Here's how it works. Males release powerful chemical signals called pheromones into the air. These airborne love potions drift on the wind, sometimes traveling for miles. A female of the same species picks up the scent with her ultra-sensitive antennae, which are so finely tuned they can detect just a few molecules floating in the air. Once she catches a whiff, she uses the concentration of the pheromone to figure out where the male is and then flies toward him, zigzagging as she follows the invisible trail. It's like a romantic scavenger hunt where the prize is a potential mate waiting at the end. Some species flip the script, with females releasing the pheromones and males doing the searching. But either way, these love signals are incredibly strong. There are moths that can detect a single molecule of pheromone in a cubic meter of air. To put that into perspective, it's like being able to smell a single drop of perfume in an Olympic-sized swimming pool. The wildest part, these chemical messages are species-specific, so there's no confusion. A female won't accidentally show up for a different moth species date night. She's hardwired to respond only to the exact scent code that matches her species. This long-distance approach has a major evolutionary advantage. Moths don't need to waste energy flying around hoping to bump into someone compatible. They just send out the signal and let biology do the matchmaking. In environments where potential partners are spread far apart, this can mean the difference between reproducing successfully and missing the season entirely. Of course, it's not without drama. Predators like bats have been known to learn these pheromone signals and use them to hunt unsuspecting moths. Imagine trying to call your crush and accidentally alerting a hungry monster to your exact location. That's a real risk in the moth dating game. Humans think dating apps are efficient, but moths have been doing the long-distance connection thing for millions of years. No Wi-Fi required. They remind us that sometimes all it takes to find love is sending out the right signal and waiting for someone to pick it up.
Ring-tailed lemurs. Some animals fight with claws, some with teeth. Ring-tailed lemurs fight with perfume. Yes, these primates literally duel by wafting their own scent at each other. Ring-tailed lemurs are already some of the most charismatic primates on the planet, with their bold, black and white tails and lively social lives. But
During mating season, things get downright hilarious. Instead of just wrestling to decide who's boss, males settle disputes with a unique ritual scientists call stink fighting. Here's how it works. Male lemurs have scent glands on their wrists and chests that produce a very distinctive smell. When it's time to compete for female attention, a male will rub his tail across these glands until it's basically loaded with scent. Think of it like soaking a rag in cologne. Then, instead of charging at his rival, he turns it into a battle of smell. He positions himself nearby, holds his tail high, and dramatically wafts the odor toward his opponent. Both males will do this back and forth like a weird slow-motion duel, sometimes lasting for minutes at a time. The goal isn't necessarily to physically hurt each other, it's to see who can outlast the other in a contest of scent superiority. The male with the stinkier, more potent waft, or the one who refuses to back down, usually wins. The loser eventually slinks away, either too overwhelmed by the smell or deciding it's not worth the trouble. And yes, the females are watching all this from the sidelines, probably deciding which male is worth their time. Winning a stink fight shows a male is strong, healthy, and full of that good lemur musk that indicates solid genetics. But here's the kicker. It's not just rivals that get the treatment. Males will sometimes do a quick stink display directly toward females as a form of courtship, like saying, "Hey, smell this. I'd make a great dad." It's weirdly effective. Scientists have even observed that lemurs seem to have individual scent profiles, meaning each one smells slightly different. This lets females choose mates based not only on dominance, but also on genetic compatibility, picking partners that will give their babies the healthiest gene mix. From a human perspective, this is equal parts gross and genius. Imagine if human dating involved spraying your best cologne and then literally fanning it into the air until your rival gave up and went home. Awkward? Absolutely. Effective? Apparently yes, at least in lemur society. So, next time you catch a whiff of someone's overpowering perfume, just be glad they're not waving their tail in your face about it. Lemurs may be adorable, but their love lives are definitely a little funky.
Bedbug traumatic insemination. If you think your dating stories are bad, wait until you hear about bedbugs. Their version of romance involves stabbing, and not in a metaphorical heartbreak way. Bedbugs might be the least popular insects on the planet, and for good reason. They bite us while we sleep, they're nearly impossible to get rid of, and their mating ritual is one of the most hardcore strategies in the animal kingdom. Here's how it works. Male bedbugs don't bother using the female's reproductive opening at all. Instead, they practice what scientists call traumatic insemination, which is exactly as brutal as it sounds. The male climbs onto the female's back and stabs her abdomen with a needle-like reproductive organ, injecting sperm directly into her body cavity. The sperm then swims through her bloodstream until it reaches her ovaries. This method completely bypasses her reproductive tract.
As unpleasant as this sounds, it actually works really well for bedbugs. This direct approach allows males to fertilize eggs even if the female isn't technically ready to mate, which increases their chances of passing on their genes. But there's a price. It's physically damaging for the female. Each stab creates a wound that can leave her vulnerable to infection and uses up precious energy for healing. In fact, scientists have discovered that female bedbugs evolved a special organ called the spermallege, a sort of reinforced patch on their body where they prefer to be stabbed. This area minimizes damage and helps reduce infection risk. You know things are intense when an entire body part evolves just to deal with how rough mating has become. But the drama doesn't stop there. Too much traumatic insemination can actually kill a female from blood loss or infection. This means that females often try to avoid males if they've already mated enough to fertilize their eggs. You can literally see females running away from persistent males in lab studies because sometimes surviving is more important than producing extra offspring. From an evolutionary perspective, this bizarre ritual shows just how far sexual selection can go. For males, it's all about getting those sperm inside by any means necessary. For females, it's a constant balancing act between getting enough sperm to fertilize eggs and staying alive long enough to lay them. For us humans, this is both horrifying and fascinating. Imagine if dating involved someone literally stabbing you as part of the process, and then your body evolved a special spot just to make the stabbing less dangerous. That's basically the bedbug version of romance. So, while bedbugs might make your skin crawl already, knowing their love life is basically a tiny horror story makes them even creepier. If nothing else, it's a good reminder to appreciate how tame human courtship actually is.
Sea slugs. Forget sword fights. Sea slugs duel with their own reproductive organs. Yes, this is real. And the winner doesn't just get bragging rights, they get to be the dad. Meet the sea slug hermaphroditic mutabranchs. Soft-bodied, brightly colored marine creatures that live slow, peaceful lives, except when it comes to mating. That's when things get straight up gladiatorial. Here's the deal. Most sea slugs are simultaneous hermaphrodites, which means they have both male and female reproductive organs. So when two slugs meet and decide it's time to mate, there's a question that has to be settled first. Who's going to be the dad, and who's going to be the mom? Instead of flipping a coin or having a polite conversation, they engage in what scientists call penis fencing. Picture two brightly colored noodles facing off, extending their needle-like penises and trying to stab each other. Yes, really. The goal is to be the first to successfully inject sperm into the other. Once that happens, the loser is stuck with the role of carrying and laying the fertilized eggs. From an evolutionary standpoint, being the father is often seen as the better deal because it requires less energy. No egg production, no babysitting, just a contribution of sperm and then freedom to go find another partner. The duel can go on for minutes, with each slug twisting, contorting, and trying to land a hit while avoiding being hit themselves. It's like a slow-motion fencing match in an underwater arena. Sometimes both slugs succeed in stabbing each other, which means they both wind up carrying eggs.
nature's version of a tie. What's fascinating is that these fights aren't purely violent. Scientists believe this ritual also helps slugs choose strong partners. If you can win or survive a penis fencing duel, you probably have good genes worth passing on. Some species even take it a step further and can discard the used penis after the fight. Yup, after the duel, the organ just breaks off and a new one regrows later. It's like having replaceable weapons for the next round. From a human perspective, it's equal parts hilarious and horrifying. Imagine if dating involved an actual sword fight, and whoever got poked first had to go raise the kids. It would definitely make reality dating shows a lot more interesting and a lot shorter. Sea slugs may look like harmless blobs, but when it comes to love, they're ruthless little duelists. For them, romance isn't about candlelight and roses. It's about agility, accuracy, and stabbing first.
Barnacles are the accomplished animal engineers of romance. When it comes to romance, barnacles face a challenge. They're glued to one spot for life. Their solution? Grow the longest penis relative to body size in the entire animal kingdom. Barnacles don't exactly live glamorous lives. Once they settle down as larvae, they glue themselves permanently to rocks, boats, whale skin, basically any solid surface, and spend the rest of their days filter feeding. That means no casual strolls to meet a partner. If they want to mate, they have to get creative. Enter their incredible evolutionary solution, a reproductive organ that is up to 8 times their body length. That's right. Despite being small, stationary crustaceans, barnacles have one of the longest penis-to-body ratios of any creature on Earth. Here's how it works. During mating season, a barnacle extends this astonishingly long and flexible organ out of its shell and sweeps it around, searching for nearby neighbors. If it finds a receptive barnacle within reach, fertilization happens. This means a single barnacle can reach multiple mates in different directions without ever moving an inch. And it's not just long, it's highly maneuverable. Scientists have discovered that barnacle penises can bend and stretch with surprising dexterity, even changing shape, depending on how rough the water currents are. In calm water, the organ grows thinner and longer to maximize reach. In rough, wavy environments, it grows shorter and stubbier so it doesn't get damaged by the current. This is one of the rare cases where anatomy actually adapts to local conditions season by season. The strategy is so effective that barnacles don't even need to choose mates. They just fertilize as many neighbors as they can reach. This increases their odds of passing on genes, which is crucial since they're literally stuck in place. From an evolutionary perspective, this is brilliant. Being able to mate with several neighbors without moving ensures a genetically diverse next generation, which is important for survival in changing ocean environments. Of course, the image of a barnacle sweeping around with its ridiculously long organ has made more than a few scientists laugh. There's even footage of them doing this in labs, and yes, it looks exactly as weird as it sounds. From a human perspective, it's hard not to be impressed. Imagine living your whole life glued to the same spot and still managing to have a thriving love life. Barnacles are proof that if there's a will and a ridiculously stretchy appendage, there's a way. So the next time you see barnacles clinging to a rock at the beach, just know that under the waves, they might be busy engaging in one of the most mind-blowing mating feats in nature.
Shark bite during mating. Shark dating tip number 1. Bring a first aid kit. In the shark world, courtship isn't just rough, it literally leaves bite marks. Sharks are some of the most impressive predators in the ocean, but when it comes to romance, they're not exactly gentle. In fact, shark mating is one of the most intense and physically demanding processes in the animal kingdom. Here's the problem. Sharks don't have hands, so when a male wants to mate, he has to find a way to keep the female from swimming away. His solution? Bite her. That's right, male sharks bite females during mating, usually grabbing onto their fins, gills, or even their sides to hold on while they align themselves for copulation. This is not a playful nibble. It can leave visible scars. Scientists studying wild sharks often use bite marks as clues that a female has recently mated. For females, this is just part of the deal, and they've evolved a clever defense: thicker skin. Female sharks, particularly on their backs and sides, have skin that can be up to twice as thick as that of males. This makes it harder for the bites to cause serious injury, though the process is still far from painless. In some species, this rough courtship is so extreme that females have visible wounds after mating season. But don't worry, they heal quickly, and these scars are just part of life for a shark mom-to-be. There's another twist. Females aren't passive in this process. They often choose when and where mating happens, sometimes resisting males until they find one they deem strong enough. Some shark species even have multiple males trying to mate at once, and females will actively shake off weaker suitors, essentially using the biting as a test of persistence. From an evolutionary perspective, this biting behavior makes sense. It allows the male to stay in position in a three-dimensional, fast-moving environment where slipping away would mean losing his chance to reproduce. It also ensures that only the strongest, most determined males get to father pups, a great way to keep the gene pool healthy. And yes, there are some real love triangles out there. Scientists have documented females carrying pups from multiple fathers at once, meaning that mating with several persistent males actually results in a more genetically diverse litter. From a human perspective, it sounds wild. Imagine if dating involved literally biting your crush's arm to get them to stay still long enough to talk. Not exactly romantic by our standards, but for sharks, it's simply how things get done.
So next time you see a shark cruising through the ocean with a few scars, don't feel too bad. Those marks aren't from a fight. They're love bites, shark style.
Squid glow signals. You've heard of candlelit dinners, but what about full-body light shows? Some squid literally glow in the dark to set the mood before mating. Deep in the ocean, where sunlight barely reaches, communication is tricky. There's no talking, no singing, no flashy feathers to show off. So some squid species came up with an absolutely brilliant solution: bioluminescence. Many squid have special light-producing organs called photophores scattered across their bodies. These organs can be turned on and off like tiny light bulbs, letting the squid create patterns, flashes, or even pulses of light. And when it's mating season, these photophores become the ultimate courtship tool. Picture this. A male squid spots a female in the deep blue darkness. Instead of just swimming over, he starts flashing patterns down the length of his body, almost like Morse code, but way more stylish. Some flash quickly, some slowly, and some even create wave-like ripples of light across their arms. These displays serve two purposes. First, they help the male get noticed in an otherwise pitch-black world. And second, they help the female decide if he's the right partner. A bright, well-timed display might signal that he's healthy and full of energy, exactly the kind of genes a female would want for her offspring. Some squid can change the color and intensity of their glow, switching from soft blue-green light to brilliant flashes that light up the water around them. To a human diver, it would look like an underwater rave, complete with strobing lights and coordinated moves. And it's not just about romance. These light shows can also be a way to keep rivals away. A male might flash aggressively to warn other males that he's already claimed this dance floor. Scientists are still trying to decode exactly what each flash pattern means. But one thing is clear. This is a highly evolved form of communication. In the deep ocean, where visual cues are rare, these glowing signals can be seen from surprisingly far away, making them a perfect way to find a mate in a very big, very dark environment. Some squid even combine their light shows with shape-shifting, changing their body posture or spreading their arms in dramatic displays while they flash. It's like a combination of dance, light art, and theater all rolled into one. From a human perspective, it's both mesmerizing and a little romantic. Imagine being able to literally light yourself up to say, "Hey, I'm into you," without saying a word. So next time you see bioluminescent footage from the deep sea, remember, some of those light shows aren't just random flashes. They're squid flirting, putting on nature's most dazzling date night performance.
Elephants in must. Most animals get a little extra flirty during mating season. Male elephants? They basically turn into hormonal tanks, leaking, rumbling, and picking fights just to prove they're ready to impress. Male elephants don't have a mating season in the traditional sense. Instead, they go through a powerful hormonal phase called must, a period where testosterone levels can spike up to 60 times higher than normal. And when an elephant is in must, everyone in the area knows it. One of the clearest signs? The smell. During must, male elephants start leaking a thick, strong-smelling fluid from glands on the sides of their heads called temporal glands. The dark streaks run down their faces, and the smell can carry quite a distance, basically broadcasting to females and rival males that this guy is officially in beast mode. But it's not just the leaking. Elephants in must also constantly dribble urine as they walk, leaving a trail that other elephants can pick up on. Combined with deep, resonant rumbles, this creates a multi-sensory announcement. I'm here, I'm ready, and I'm the one you should be paying attention to. And yes, this phase comes with a serious personality shift. Normally calm bulls can become extremely aggressive during must, challenging rivals to dominance fights, uprooting trees, and chasing anything that gets in their way. Scientists think this aggression is partly fueled by the testosterone spike and partly strategic. A must bull is trying to take over as the top breeding male, so showing strength is crucial. Females actually seem to prefer males in must because it signals that they're in peak physical condition and full of energy to father healthy calves. It's risky, though, because must males also fight other bulls, sometimes in dramatic tusk-to-tusk battles to gain exclusive access to females. Must is so intense that even other animals respect it. Younger bulls and even lions will usually steer clear of an elephant in must, knowing he's not in the mood to play nice. From an evolutionary perspective, must works like a giant flashing sign over the bull's head saying, "Best genes available right now." It also helps maintain genetic diversity, because only the strongest males can endure must and win access to mates. From a human perspective, it's both fascinating and a little terrifying. Imagine if guys went through a seasonal phase where they suddenly grew more muscular, smelled incredibly intense, and started flipping furniture to impress potential partners. That's basically what an elephant does, just scaled up to several tons. So when you see a bull elephant with dark streaks running down his face, maybe give him some space. He's not crying, he's just in must, and that means he's on a mission to find love and maybe throw a few trees around while he's at it.
Hippo's fecal spray. Dinner and flowers might work for us, but male hippos take a different approach. They fling poop everywhere. Yes, in the hippo world, romance smells really bad. Hippos may look like lazy, chill river giants, but when it comes to love, they get surprisingly rowdy and a little disgusting. Males are extremely territorial, and before they can even think about attracting a mate, they need to make it very clear who owns which stretch of river. And how do they do that? By turning their butts into high-powered sprinklers. Here's how it goes down. A male hippo backs up to the edge of the water or near another hippo's territory line, lifts his tail, and starts pooping. But he doesn't just let it drop. Oh no,
He spins his tail like a little helicopter blade, flinging dung in every direction. The result is a wide spray pattern that coats the surrounding area, and sometimes unlucky nearby hippos with his unmistakable scent. This serves two purposes. First, it's a territorial marker, letting rival males know this is my spot. Second, it's a signal to females that he's a strong, dominant male who can hold this prime real estate, and therefore a good choice for producing strong calves. Sometimes this ritual turns into an all-out poop-off. Two males will face off, fling feces at each other, and roar until one backs down. The winner gets to keep the territory and the chance to court the females living in it. And yes, the females notice. In fact, some females seem to deliberately hang around dominant males who have been spraying a lot. Biologists believe the smell communicates important information about the male's health and status, sort of like a weird, stinky cologne. Once the dominance displays are over, the actual courtship begins, and it's not much gentler. Males will bellow loudly, chase females through the water, and continue spraying to keep rivals away until mating finally happens. From an evolutionary standpoint, this messy ritual makes perfect sense. The strongest, healthiest male is the one who can hold territory, fend off challengers, and keep spraying without getting exhausted, which means he's likely to pass on the best genes. From a human perspective, though, it's hilarious and horrifying at the same time. Imagine if dating involved going to a fancy restaurant and the guy just started flinging poop to show how serious he was. Definitely a deal breaker for us, but for hippos, it's a huge flex. So next time you see a hippo swishing its tail, maybe step back a bit. You're not just watching an animal do its business. You're witnessing a love letter, hippo style.
Giraffe neck fighting. When giraffes fight for love, they don't just push or shove. They turn their necks into giant sledgehammers. Giraffes may look like gentle, slow-moving giants, just nibbling leaves all day. But when it comes to mating rights, the males can get surprisingly violent. Their method of settling who gets the girl, necking. And no, this isn't the romantic kind of necking from old movies. This is full contact, bone-rattling combat. Here's how it works. Two males line up side by side, then start swinging their necks at each other like medieval flails. Their heads, which are heavy and armed with little bony knobs called ossicones, act like blunt weapons. Each swing is delivered with the full power of a giraffe's long neck and massive muscles. The blows land on each other's necks, ribs, and flanks with a loud thwack that can be heard from quite a distance. Sometimes one giraffe gets lucky and lands a direct hit on the opponent's body or even head, which can stagger them or knock them off balance completely. These battles can look slow motion because giraffes are so big, but the force behind each swing is incredible. In extreme cases, necking matches can even end with one giraffe collapsing from a knockout blow. Usually, though, one combatant just gives up and walks away, leaving the winner to claim access to the females. The neck champ doesn't just win by brute strength. It's also about skill. Males practice necking from a young age, building strength and perfecting their technique. By the time they're adults, they know exactly how to deliver the most effective swing while avoiding taking too much damage themselves. Females often watch these contests closely, and their choice of mate is usually influenced by who comes out on top. A male who can win a necking battle shows he's healthy, strong, and able to protect future offspring. All big evolutionary green flags. What's interesting is that not all necking fights are knockdown, drag-out battles. Sometimes younger males play neck, sparring gently to practice without causing serious injury. These practice rounds help them prepare for the day when the stakes are higher, and there's a real mate on the line. From a human perspective, it's both awe-inspiring and a little comical. Imagine trying to win a date by literally swinging your head like a wrecking ball at your competition until one of you gives up. It's dramatic, risky, and probably not chiropractor approved, but for giraffes, it's just how love works. So, next time you see two giraffes standing side by side and swinging their necks, don't assume they're just stretching. You might be watching a high-stakes love duel in progress.
Elephant Seal Beach Wars. Imagine a beach vacation that suddenly turns into a wrestling tournament with 5,000-pound contestants. That's breeding season for elephant seals. Elephant seals are massive, blubbery giants that spend most of the year far out at sea. But once a year, they haul themselves onto beaches in huge numbers for one reason: mating season. And what follows is less a peaceful beach party and more a scene straight out of a gladiator movie. Here's how it goes down. Males, called bulls, start arriving early to claim the best spots on the beach. These spots are prime real estate because soon hundreds of females will arrive to give birth and then mate again. A bull that controls a good stretch of beach can mate with dozens of females in one season, but only if he can keep rival bulls away. And that's where the fights begin. Male elephant seals engage in brutal, bloody battles called beach wars. They rear up as high as they can on their massive chests and lunge at each other, slamming together like sumo wrestlers with teeth. They bite, roar, and use their sheer weight, sometimes over 2 tons, to force the opponent to back off. These fights aren't quick scuffles. They can last for hours, leaving both bulls gashed, bleeding, and exhausted. The sound is incredible. Deep bellows that echo across the beach, mixed with the slaps of blubber against blubber. And there's no referee. The loser simply retreats, and the victor takes control of the beach and the females on it. The winner of these battles is called the alpha bull, or the beach master. He gets exclusive mating rights with the females in his harem, sometimes fathering up to 90% of the pups born that season. It's a huge payoff for surviving these punishing fights. But being beach mastered isn't just about fighting. It's also about stamina. The alpha has to patrol constantly, chasing off challengers, roaring warnings, and breaking up squabbles among other males. In fact, some alphas get so busy defending their harems that they barely eat during the entire breeding season, losing hundreds of pounds before it's over.
Younger or weaker males often hang out on the edges, sneaking in quick matings whenever the alpha is distracted. This creates constant tension and sometimes leads to more fights. The beach can look like a chaotic battlefield with dozens of bulls posturing and bellowing at once. From an evolutionary standpoint, this system ensures that only the strongest, most dominant males get to pass on their genes, a cruel but effective way to keep the population healthy. From a human perspective, it's both awe-inspiring and terrifying. Imagine trying to flirt on the beach while two giant, roaring creatures are smashing into each other nearby. Elephant-seal romance isn't subtle. It's a full-contact sport.
Kangaroo boxing matches. Ever seen two kangaroos fighting and thought it looked like a martial arts movie? That's not random. It's a high-stakes kickboxing match to see who gets the girl. Kangaroos may look cute and cuddly from a distance, but when it's mating season, the males, called boomers, turn into full-on prize fighters. Their preferred way of settling disputes? Boxing. Here's how it usually starts. Two males spot the same female, and instead of quietly walking away, they size each other up like fighters in a ring. They puff up their chests, stand tall on their powerful hind legs, and start circling. Then the blows begin. They use their short, muscular arms to grab and shove, each one trying to throw the other off balance. If things escalate, they rear back on their tails. Yes, they actually use their tails as a third leg and unleash their secret weapon, those massive hind legs. With a swift, powerful kick, they can launch their rival backward, sometimes several feet. Those kicks aren't just for show either. They're strong enough to bruise, cut, or even break bones if the fight gets serious. But here's the fascinating part. Kangaroo boxing isn't always meant to seriously injure the other guy. Most of the time, it's about intimidation and proving strength. The match often ends when one kangaroo decides the other is just too tough and hops away, leaving the victor to claim access to the female. And yes, there is an audience. Females often sit nearby and watch the entire bout, waiting to see which male proves he's the strongest. The winner gets the chance to mate, which means his genes are more likely to be passed down, exactly what natural selection is designed to do. Younger males also get in on the action, practicing their boxing skills in mock fights with one another. These sparring sessions help them build muscle, improve balance, and perfect their technique for the day when a real match decides their reproductive future. From an evolutionary perspective, this ritual is incredibly efficient. It means females get to mate with the most athletic, physically fit males, which increases the chances of producing healthy joeys. From a human perspective, it's almost comical. Two kangaroos squaring off in what looks like a slow-motion MMA fight. Picture a boxing match, but instead of gloves and ropes, you've got fur, tails, and an outback backdrop. So next time you see kangaroos fighting on a nature documentary, remember, you're not just watching random aggression. You're witnessing a high-stakes dating competition where the winner doesn't get a championship belt, just a chance at fatherhood.
Bighorn sheep headbutts. If you think a headbutt is just a quick, dirty move in a bar fight, you've never seen bighorn sheep. These guys take headbutting to an Olympic level, and they do it all for love.
Bighorn sheep are the heavyweights of the mountain world, with those iconic curled horns that can weigh up to 30 pounds. But those horns aren't just for looking majestic. They're weapons. And when mating season rolls around, those weapons get put to dramatic use. Here's how it starts. Two rival rams spot each other on the rocky slopes and decide to settle who gets access to the females. They don't just rush in blindly. First, they size each other up, strutting, pawing at the ground, and even making low growling noises. This is their version of trash talk. Then, when both are ready, they back up, sometimes as far as 40 feet, and then charge full speed straight at each other. The impact is incredible. Horns crash together with a crack so loud it echoes through the mountains. This isn't a one-and-done hit either. They do this over and over again, sometimes for hours, until one ram finally gives up and retreats. The winner claims the right to mate with the nearby females. What's mind-blowing is how these sheep can do this without giving themselves massive concussions. Scientists have discovered that bighorn sheep have specialized skull structures, extra thick bone, honeycomb-like sinuses, and shock-absorbing tissue that allow them to withstand repeated impacts that would be deadly to most animals. Basically, they've evolved built-in helmets. And it's not just brute strength that wins. Timing, accuracy, and endurance all matter. A ram has to hit with just the right angle and force to knock his rival off balance without exhausting himself too quickly. Females, called ewes, watch these duels and typically mate with the victor, ensuring that only the toughest, most resilient rams pass on their genes. It's natural selection with a side of head trauma. From an evolutionary standpoint, these battles keep the population strong, as weaker males are weeded out from the breeding pool. From a human standpoint, though, it's both impressive and a little terrifying. Imagine solving a love triangle by running at your rival head first at 30 miles per hour until someone quits. And if you think that sounds dangerous, you're right. Sometimes these battles do result in broken horns or serious injuries. But for the winners, the reward is worth the risk. A chance to father dozens of lambs in a single season. So next time you see those majestic horns, don't just think cool photo op. Think battle gear. For bighorn sheep, romance means bruises, broken horns, and a skull strong enough to take a hit that would knock out a human in an instant.
Dragonfly aerial dogfights. Top Gun has nothing on dragonflies. These guys pull off mid-air chases, flips, and even mid-flight wrestling matches, all for a chance to win a mate. Dragonflies are already some of the most skilled flyers on Earth. They can hover, fly backward, and make hairpin turns at lightning speed. But when it's mating season, those aerial acrobatics go from impressive to downright gladiatorial. Here's how it works. When a male dragonfly spots a rival near his territory or a receptive female, he springs into action, literally. He'll launch into the air and engage in a high-speed chase, swooping, diving, and even colliding mid-air with his opponent.
These battles can look like tiny aerial dogfights, with each dragonfly trying to outmaneuver the other. If he succeeds in chasing off the competition, the male quickly grabs the female behind her head with special claspers on the tip of his abdomen. This is where things get wild. The two dragonflies form what's known as the mating wheel, or heart shape. The male curls his abdomen forward to transfer sperm, and the two stay locked together in this position, sometimes while still flying. But the drama doesn't end there. After mating, the male often sticks around to guard the female while she lays her eggs. This is called mate guarding, and it's basically his way of making sure no other males sneak in to replace his sperm before she's done. In some species, the male literally stays attached to the female the whole time, flying in tandem with her as she deposits eggs in the water. Talk about commitment! And here's the really wild part. Before transferring his own sperm, the male can use special structures to scoop out or displace any sperm from previous matings. This ensures he gets maximum paternity, a biological version of clear history and start fresh. Females aren't passive in this process either. They can choose where to lay their eggs based on which male is guarding them, often preferring males that are strong enough to fend off rivals. From an evolutionary perspective, this whole ritual is genius. Only the fittest males, the ones with the stamina and skill to win aerial fights, get to mate, and mate guarding ensures their genetic investment isn't wasted. From a human perspective, though, it's pure action movie energy. Imagine having to win a high-speed aerial chase just to get a date, and then following your date around afterward to make sure no one else cuts in line. Dragonflies may look delicate, but their love lives are fierce, fast, and full of drama. Next time you see them darting over a pond, you might just be witnessing a sky-high showdown with romance hanging in the balance.
Damselfly genital scraping. If you thought jealousy was a human thing, meet the damselfly, the insect that literally cleans out its rivals before sealing the deal. Damselflies might look like delicate, fairy-like insects gliding around ponds, but their love lives are surprisingly ruthless. When it's time to mate, males aren't content with just being the last one in line. They want to make absolutely sure no other male's genes sneak through. Here's how it works. When a male finds a female, he grabs her behind the head with specialized claspers, forming that classic heart-shaped mating wheel that damselflies and dragonflies are famous for. But before he transfers his own sperm, he uses a unique, spiky structure on his genitalia to scrape out or displace any sperm left by previous males. Yes, you read that right. This insect has evolved a built-in cleaning tool to give himself the best shot at fatherhood. Scientists studying damselflies under microscopes have actually seen them removing rival sperm before depositing their own. This behavior is so effective that some males even guard the female afterward, just like dragonflies, to make sure no one else sneaks in and undoes their hard work. In some species, the male stays attached to the female until she's finished laying eggs, which can take hours, just to be certain he's the genetic dad of the next generation. Females, meanwhile, aren't completely helpless in this process.
They can influence whose sperm they actually use by controlling which sperm gets stored or released from their internal organs. So even though the male is trying to erase the competition, the female still has the final say in which male ultimately fathers her eggs. A fascinating example of what scientists call cryptic female choice. From an evolutionary perspective, genital scraping makes perfect sense. Damselflies live in environments where multiple matings can happen in a short window of time. By physically removing previous sperm, a male maximizes his own reproductive success, which is what natural selection is all about. And let's be honest, from a human perspective, it's a little shocking. Imagine if dating involved literally deleting your rival's contribution before leaving your own. It's like nature's version of hitting the reset button. The fact that such a tiny, delicate-looking insect has evolved such a competitive, aggressive reproductive strategy is just one more reminder that the natural world is way more dramatic than it looks. So the next time you see damselflies hovering gracefully over a pond, know that those serene little creatures are engaged in one of the most intense, microscopic rivalries in the animal kingdom, with high stakes and very sharp tools.
Dunnock polyandry battles. Some birds form sweet monogamous pairs. Dunnocks? Their love life is a soap opera, complete with rivalries, alliances, and more drama than a reality dating show. Dunnocks are small, rather plain-looking brown birds, often found flitting around gardens in Europe. You'd never guess that these quiet little creatures have one of the most complicated mating systems in the animal kingdom. Here's how it goes down. Female dunnocks don't just settle for one male. They're famous for practicing polyandry, meaning they may mate with 2 or even 3 males during the same breeding period. This sets the stage for intense competition, because every male wants to make sure his sperm is the one that fertilizes the eggs. When a female is ready to mate, the drama begins. Males often follow her closely, guarding her and chasing off rivals. If another male shows up, things can get violent quickly. Males fight fiercely, sometimes knocking each other off perches or grappling midair. These fights aren't just for show. The winner often gets immediate mating rights. But here's where it gets extra spicy. Sometimes males actually form uneasy coalitions and share a female rather than fight endlessly. In these cases, they take turns mating with her, and later, they may even share the job of feeding her chicks, even though they can't be sure which ones are actually theirs. Scientists think this unusual arrangement works because it increases the survival chances of the offspring. If multiple males help raise the brood, the chicks get more food. And even if one male's genes aren't represented, he still increases the odds of having future chances with the female. But wait, there's more. Females have been observed encouraging these coalitions by mating with each male multiple times in quick succession, almost as if she's negotiating paternity rights. This paternity confusion strategy may help her keep multiple males invested in raising the chicks, since each one thinks he has a chance of being the dad. From an evolutionary standpoint, this is brilliant. The female ensures her chicks are well fed by multiple dads, and the strongest, most persistent males get to pass on their genes. It's a messy, chaotic system, but it works. From a human perspective, it's like watching an episode of Love Island except with feathers, mid-air brawls, and no dramatic music cues. The fights are real, the alliances are temporary, and the stakes are literally life and death for the next generation. So the next time you see a little brown bird hopping around your yard, remember, it might not just be looking for worms. It could be caught in the middle of a love triangle or square worthy of a prime time drama.
Wasp, Queen Execution. In the world of social wasps, there's no room for democracy. When multiple queens emerge, they don't compromise. They fight to the death until there's only one ruler left. When most people think of wasps, they think of summer picnics being ruined by buzzing yellow streaks. But behind the scenes, wasps have one of the most brutal systems of power transfer in the animal kingdom. Here's how it works. In many social wasp species, multiple young queens, called gynes, are produced at the end of the summer. They mate and then hunker down for the winter, waiting for the next breeding season. When spring arrives, these mated queens emerge, often in groups, and start working together to build a nest. At first, everything seems cooperative. The queens share the work, gathering pulp to make the nest, laying eggs, feeding the larvae. But this honeymoon phase doesn't last long. As the nest grows, dominant struggles begin. Each queen wants to be the one who becomes the sole egg layer for the colony. The contests start small: antennal boxing, biting, and posturing. But eventually it escalates into full-on queen combat. They grapple, sting, and wrestle. Sometimes in some species, workers will even step in and choose sides, physically restraining or even killing weaker queens. By the end of this bloody little coup, only one queen remains. She becomes the primary egg layer, while the others are either driven out, executed, or reduced to sterile worker status for the rest of their lives. The victorious queen's genes will now dominate the colony's offspring. This violent power struggle is critical for colony success. Multiple competing queens would waste resources and create chaos. By ensuring there is only one mother, the colony operates with a single genetic goal: creating a streamlined workforce of sterile daughters who raise their siblings and defend the nest. From an evolutionary perspective, this ruthless system makes sense. Colonies with clear hierarchy are more efficient and have better survival rates. But the cost is high. For the losing queens, this battle can be fatal. Interestingly, some species have developed a kind of queen policing, where workers actively kill extra queens to prevent power struggles from dragging on too long. This means that sometimes the decision isn't even made by combat. It's a collective execution carried out by the worker wasps. From a human perspective, it's like a Game of Thrones episode: alliances, betrayals, and only one queen left standing on the throne, or in this case, the hexagonal paper nest. So next time you see a wasp nest hanging under a roof, remember, it's not just a buzzing hive of activity. That quiet little paper fortress is ruled by a single monarch who fought and probably killed for the crown.
Komodo dragon wrestling. Two giant lizards rearing up on their hind legs and wrestling like sumo champions? That's not a monster movie. That's how Komodo dragons decide who gets the girl. Komodo dragons are the largest lizards on Earth, reaching up to 10 feet long and weighing more than 150 pounds. They're apex predators, famous for taking down deer, pigs, and even water buffalo. But during mating season, their biggest battles aren't against prey, they're against each other. When two males compete for the same female, they don't just hiss and chase, they wrestle. And not the playful kind. This is all-out reptilian grappling. Here's how it happens. The rivals face each other, rise up on their hind legs, and use their tails like living tripods to balance. Then they lock their forelegs around each other's bodies and start shoving, twisting, and throwing their massive weight around. It's like watching two dinosaur-sized sumo wrestlers locked in a clinch. The goal isn't necessarily to injure the opponent, though bites and scratches definitely happen, but to slam him to the ground and pin him. The dragon that ends up on top usually wins the right to mate with the nearby female. These bouts can last several minutes and often involve a series of grapples and resets. The two dragons may separate, circle each other, and then rear up again for another round. Dust flies, tails whip, claws dig into the ground. It's an intense display of raw power. Females usually watch from a safe distance, and their choice is clear. The winner gets first and often exclusive mating rights. This means that only the strongest, healthiest males father the next generation of Komodo dragons, a perfect example of natural selection at work. Interestingly, Komodo dragons are usually solitary creatures, but during these wrestling matches, you can sometimes see several males waiting nearby, ready to challenge the winner for a shot at the female. It's a reptilian version of a tournament bracket. You win one match and another contender steps in. From an evolutionary perspective, this wrestling behavior is brilliant. It reduces the need for constant bloody fights by allowing a clear, decisive winner to emerge without necessarily causing fatal injuries. It's more about proving strength and stamina than about killing the rival. From a human perspective, it's absolutely mesmerizing. Imagine two giant, scaly titans standing upright, locked together like heavyweight fighters, each trying to topple the other. It's one of the most primal and dramatic mating contests in the animal kingdom. So, the next time you see a Komodo dragon calmly sunning itself, remember that somewhere out there, its cousins are throwing each other to the ground in a prehistoric wrestling match, all for the right to romance a lady dragon.
Fiddler crab claw fights. When male fiddler crabs want to impress a mate, they don't buy flowers. They wave their giant claws around like they're hailing a taxi. And then they throw down in claw-to-claw combat if someone else dares to flirt. Fiddler crabs are famous for their lopsided look. Males have one normal-sized claw and one ridiculously oversized claw that can be half the size of their entire body. And that big claw isn't just for show, it's the centerpiece of their mating ritual. Here's how it starts. A male fiddler crab stands outside his burrow and begins waving his massive claw in the air. This isn't random flailing. It's a rhythmic, species-specific signal meant to catch the attention of females nearby. Each species of fiddler crab even has its own wave style, from slow and smooth to fast and flashy, kind of like crab choreography. If a female likes the performance, she approaches the burrow for a closer look. But if another male happens to notice, he might come over to challenge the performer, and that's when things get physical. Males will face off, raise their big claws high, and sometimes engage in intense grappling matches, pushing and shoving until one of them backs down. These fights can look comical, two tiny crabs wrestling like sumo wrestlers, but the stakes are high. The winner not only keeps the burrow, prime real estate for egg-laying, but also gets the girl. And the burrow really is the prize here. Female fiddler crabs inspect it carefully before mating, because that's where she'll lay her eggs. A burrow that's deep, safe from predators, and high enough above the tide line to avoid flooding is crucial for chick survival. So when she chooses a mate, she's also choosing a house. Sometimes males will even bluff by waving their claw dramatically, even if they're not that strong. Interestingly, studies have shown that some males regrow claws that look big but are actually lighter and weaker than the original, but females often fall for the illusion anyway, proving that in crab courtship, appearances really do matter. From an evolutionary perspective, this whole display is brilliant. The waving shows the female that the male is healthy enough to waste energy on flashy signals, and the burrow inspection ensures she gets the best possible nursery for her eggs. From a human perspective, though, it's kind of hilarious. Imagine trying to impress someone by standing outside your house, waving a giant foam hand over your head, and then getting into a wrestling match with your neighbor if he tries to cut in. Fiddler crabs may be tiny, but their love lives are full of drama, dance moves, and duels, all fought with one ridiculously oversized claw. Anglerfish male fusion. For most animals, becoming one is just a metaphor. For deep-sea anglerfish, it's literal. The male actually fuses with the female's body and becomes a permanent, living sperm donor. Anglerfish are some of the strangest creatures in the ocean, known for the glowing lure that dangles in front of their mouth like a built-in fishing rod. But their mating habits are somehow even weirder than their appearance. Here's the problem. Anglerfish live in the deep sea, where potential partners are few and far between. In the eternal darkness of the ocean depths, finding another member of your species at the right time, ready to mate, is like winning the lottery. So, anglerfish evolved one of the most extreme solutions in nature. When a tiny male anglerfish, often only a fraction of the female size, manages to find a female, he latches onto her with his teeth. Then, over time, something incredible and a little creepy happens. He fuses with her body. His skin merges with hers, their bloodstreams connect, and eventually he loses most of his internal organs,
including his eyes and digestive system. At this point, the male is no longer an independent creature. He's basically a living appendage whose sole purpose is to produce sperm whenever the female needs it. In some species, a female may carry multiple males fused to her body at once, like a bizarre biological harem. Each one is just a tiny shriveled nub, pumping out sperm on demand. This system has a major evolutionary advantage. Because deep-sea encounters are so rare, this guarantees that once a female finds a mate, she never has to go looking again. She can reproduce anytime she's ready, without wasting energy searching for another male. But it's also one of the most extreme examples of sexual dimorphism in the animal kingdom. Female anglerfish are large, fierce hunters with huge mouths and bioluminescent lures. Males are tiny, fragile, and completely dependent on finding a female just to survive long term. If a male fails to attach to a female, he usually dies alone. From a human perspective, this is both horrifying and kind of romantic, the ultimate commitment, but also the ultimate loss of independence. Imagine meeting someone and then literally becoming a permanent part of their body. No going back, no separate hobbies, no space to think. Scientists say this bizarre fusion is a brilliant solution to life in an environment where dating opportunities are vanishingly rare. It's also one of the most alien-feeling strategies on Earth, proof that nature sometimes takes "till death do us part" a little too literally.
Clownfish gender swaps. Forget drama about who wears the pants in the relationship. Clownfish take it to the next level. If the female dies, the biggest male doesn't just take over. He becomes a female. Clownfish may be best known for their starring role in Finding Nemo, but their real-life biology is way more dramatic than any Pixar movie ever showed. These bright orange reef dwellers live in small groups inside sea anemones, forming a strict social hierarchy that's all about size. At the top is the dominant female, the largest fish in the group. She calls the shots, lays the eggs, and basically runs the anemone household. Right below her in rank is the dominant male, who is next in line for, well, everything. Here's the twist. If the female dies or disappears, the largest male doesn't just slide into her old job as the boss. He literally changes sex and becomes the new female. His body undergoes a complete transformation, hormonally and physically, to turn into a fully functioning female capable of laying eggs. Meanwhile, the next largest fish in the hierarchy steps up and becomes the new dominant male. This keeps the breeding pair intact and ensures the group's survival without anyone having to leave the anemone to find a mate. This ability to switch sexes is called sequential hermaphroditism, and clownfish are one of the best-known examples in the ocean. It's a brilliant evolutionary strategy because it means the group is never without a breeding female for long.
Even more fascinating, this transformation isn't instant. It can take days or even weeks, during which the former male gradually shifts into his new role. His behavior changes first. He starts acting more dominant, followed by his reproductive organs, which switch from producing sperm to producing eggs. From an evolutionary perspective, this makes perfect sense. Since females produce the eggs, the more energetically expensive part of reproduction, it benefits the species to have the largest, healthiest individual take on that job. Bigger females can lay more eggs, leading to more babies surviving. From a human perspective, this is both mind-blowing and kind of genius. Imagine if, when the leader of your group stepped down, the next person in line just completely reinvented themselves to fill the role. No elections, no drama, just a smooth, if dramatic, transition. So, while Finding Nemo never covered this part, the real story is that if Nemo's mom had died, which, well, she did in the first 5 minutes, Marilyn would have eventually become Nemo's mom. Nature is wild like that. Clownfish remind us that in the ocean, survival is all about flexibility. Sometimes literally.
Banana slug, genital gnawing. Some lovers leave after a date. Banana slugs, they sometimes leave behind their own penis. Yep, these slimy creatures take cutting ties to a whole new level. Banana slugs are already odd enough. Big, slimy, bright yellow, and looking exactly like the fruit they're named after. But their mating habits might just be one of the strangest in the entire animal kingdom. First, a little context. Banana slugs are hermaphrodites, meaning they have both male and female reproductive organs. When two slugs decide to mate, they align themselves and exchange sperm simultaneously. So, technically, they can both fertilize eggs afterward. But here's where things get really bizarre. During mating, the male organ, yes, both slugs have one, can sometimes get stuck inside the partner's body. And when that happens, the solution isn't a gentle, let's work this out. The stuck slug simply chews it off. This process is called ovophilation, and it's exactly as intense as it sounds. The slug literally gnaws through its partner's penis to separate. The unfortunate slug that loses its organ can never mate as a male again. It becomes exclusively female for the rest of its life. Scientists aren't entirely sure why this happens. One theory is that it prevents the partner from mating with any other slugs as a male, basically forcing them to stay exclusive as a female and use the sperm they just received. Another possibility is that it's just a necessary escape mechanism if the two slugs physically can't separate otherwise. As gruesome as it sounds, banana slugs seem to carry on just fine after the ordeal. In fact, many of them go on to produce plenty of offspring, just only in the female role. From an evolutionary perspective, this strange behavior might actually be beneficial. By preventing a mate from acting as a male again, the slug that did the chewing increases the odds that its sperm will be the one used to fertilize the partner's eggs, reducing sperm competition. From a human perspective, though, this is one of those thank goodness we're not slugs moments. Imagine a romantic evening ending with one partner literally biting off the other's reproductive organ, and both parties just going on with their lives like it's no big deal. Banana slugs remind us that nature doesn't always play by rules that make sense to us. Sometimes survival strategies are brutal, shocking, and just a little bit metal, and in this case involve a level of post-date commitment that no one asked for.
Snails with love darts. Cupid uses arrows. Snails, they stab their partners with tiny calcium spears before mating. And yes, it actually improves their odds of becoming a parent. Snails may seem like slow, peaceful little garden dwellers, but their love life is surprisingly hardcore. Many land snail species are hermaphrodites, meaning they have both male and female reproductive organs and can mate in either role. But when two snails meet and decide to get romantic, there's a very sharp twist to the story: the love dart. Here's how it goes down. Before exchanging sperm, one or sometimes both snails produce a tiny, sharp dart made of calcium carbonate. They then physically stab their partner with it, sometimes multiple times. This sounds violent, but the dart doesn't kill the partner. Instead, it delivers a cocktail of chemicals that makes the recipient's reproductive system more likely to use the shooter's sperm. In other words, the dart is nature's way of saying, "Pick me, choose me, use my sperm first." Once the dart stabbing is over, the snails line up their bodies and exchange sperm. Since both partners can act as males and females at the same time, they usually swap roles, meaning both may end up with fertilized eggs afterward. But thanks to the dart, the shooter has a reproductive edge. Scientists have actually studied this under the microscope and found that dart shooting can double the chances of the shooter's sperm being used for fertilization. It's one of the clearest examples of chemical warfare in courtship. But it's not without risks. A poorly aimed dart can miss entirely, or hit a spot that causes more harm than intended. In some cases, snails have been observed carrying multiple old darts stuck inside their bodies from previous matings, proof that the dating scene can be a little rough. From an evolutionary perspective, this bizarre ritual makes sense. In a world where multiple matings are common, anything that helps your genes win the competition is worth the risk, even if it involves stabbing your date. From a human perspective, though, it's both funny and a little disturbing. Imagine having to literally stab your crush with a tiny syringe before asking them out just to make sure they'd be more likely to pick you over someone else. Romantic? Maybe not, but effective? Definitely. Snails prove that even the slowest creatures can have surprisingly dramatic love lives. Their version of courtship might look strange to us, but it's one of nature's cleverest ways to give someone's sperm the upper hand, one tiny dart at a time.
Flatworm. Forget rock, paper, scissors. Flatworms settle their parenting roles by sword fighting with their penises. Yes, this is real life. Flatworms are some of the simplest animals on Earth. No bones, no grain like ours, just squishy little bodies that glide around underwater. But don't let their simple looks fool you. When it comes to reproduction, flatworms have one of the most bizarre and surprisingly competitive strategies in the animal kingdom. Here's the situation. Most flatworms are simultaneous hermaphrodites, meaning they have both male and female reproductive organs. This gives them a choice every time they meet another flatworm. They can be the father, the mother, or sometimes both. But here's the catch. Producing eggs takes a lot more energy than producing sperm. So most flatworms would prefer to be the dad and leave the costly childbearing to someone else. Enter penis fencing. When two flatworms meet to mate, they extend their needle-like penises and begin dueling, trying to stab the other one first. This can go on for minutes, with the flatworms twisting and flipping and even trying to pin each other down, like a slimy underwater sword fight. The winner is the one who successfully injects sperm into the other's body. That worm gets to be the father, while the loser is left with no choice but to fertilize and lay eggs, taking on the energy-heavy role of being the mom. Sometimes both worms manage to stab each other, which means they both end up fertilized and will both lay eggs, nature's version of a tie. Scientists have observed that penis fencing isn't just random chaos. It's actually quite skilled. Flatworms adjust their tactics mid-fight, twisting and lunging with surprising precision. In some species, they can even inject sperm into almost any part of the partner's body, letting the sperm migrate through the tissues until it finds the eggs. From an evolutionary standpoint, this behavior makes perfect sense. By competing for the dad role, flatworms maximize their reproductive success while minimizing their own investment in producing costly eggs. The duels are basically high-stakes negotiations, with the outcome determining who bears the biological burden of parenthood. From a human perspective, though, it's hilariously over the top. Imagine if deciding who had to raise the kids involved an actual fencing match, except the swords were, well, you get the picture. Flatworms might be tiny, but their love lives are full of drama, strategy, and dueling that would make any swashbuckling pirate proud. For them, romance is a battle, literally, and the winner walks away smugly sperm-free.
Argonaut octopus, detachable arm. When most guys send a love letter, they use words. Male Argonaut octopuses send their entire arm. And yes, it's swimming. Argonaut octopuses, sometimes called paper nautiluses because of the delicate shell-like cases the females build, have one of the most bizarre mating rituals in the ocean. Unlike many octopus species, female argonauts grow quite large, up to 10 inches, while males stay tiny, sometimes just an inch long. This massive size difference means mating face-to-face isn't exactly practical. So nature came up with a truly wild workaround: detachable delivery systems. Male argonauts have a specialized arm called a hectocotylus, which is essentially a sperm-filled package with the ability to move on its own. When it's time to mate, the male approaches the female and detaches this arm completely. The arm then swims or wiggles its way into the female's mantle cavity, where it stays until she uses it to fertilize her eggs. This means the male never has to stick around. His genetic contribution is literally sent as a gift. And since males are so small compared to females, this may actually keep them safer by avoiding the risk of being eaten during the encounter. Because yes,
Cannibalism is always a possibility in the octopus world. For a long time, scientists had no idea what they were looking at when they found these loose arms inside female argonauts. Early researchers actually thought they were parasites. It wasn't until the 19th century that scientists realized these mysterious worms were in fact the detached mating arms of tiny males. This strategy has clear evolutionary benefits. In the deep sea, finding a mate can be a rare event, and males only get one shot. They die shortly after releasing their arm. By sending off a self-contained sperm packet, they ensure that the female can fertilize her eggs later, even if she doesn't lay them right away. Females can even store multiple hectocotyle from different males, meaning they can choose which sperm to use, giving them control over whose genes make it to the next generation. From a human perspective, this is both hilarious and a little creepy. Imagine sending someone a love letter that literally detached from your body and crawled over to them, and then just hoping they used it when the time was right. Argonauts proved that romance in the ocean doesn't always require sticking around for parenting duties. Sometimes it's about sending the ultimate parting gift, one that literally carries a piece of you along with it.
Cuckoo wasps, sneaky meeting. Some animals fight for love. Others dance. But cuckoo wasp males, they go full spy mode, pretending to be females just to slip past the competition. Cuckoo wasps are some of the most dazzling insects you'll ever see. Tiny, metallic, jewel-toned creatures that look like they were dipped in emerald or sapphire paint. But behind their beauty lies one of the sneakiest love strategies in the animal kingdom. Here's the setup. During mating season, males gather near places where females are likely to appear. The strongest males patrol these spots, chasing off rivals and trying to monopolize access to incoming females. Normally, this would mean weaker males are out of luck. But cuckoo wasps have evolved a clever workaround: disguise. Some males take advantage of the fact that they can mimic female pheromones, essentially tricking the dominant males into thinking they're harmless females. While the alpha males are busy ignoring or tolerating these females, the imposter male bides his time, waiting for a real female to show up. When she does, the sneaky male makes his move, mating with her quickly before the dominant male realizes what's happening. This tactic is risky. If the dominant male figures it out, the imposter might get attacked or chased away. But if it works, it allows males who couldn't win a fight to still pass on their genes. In other words, it's evolution's version of stealth mode. This kind of behavior is what biologists call a sneaker strategy. It shows that brute force isn't the only way to succeed in the mating game. Sometimes being clever and patient is just as effective, maybe even more so, since it saves energy and avoids dangerous fights. Cuckoo wasps are already famous for being parasites of other insects, sneaking their eggs into other species' nests so their larvae can feed on the host's provisions. Their mating strategy fits right in with this theme of being stealthy and opportunistic. From an evolutionary standpoint, this strategy maintains genetic diversity by allowing smaller, less aggressive males to reproduce too, preventing the population from being dominated by just the biggest bruisers. From a human perspective, it's hard not to laugh.
Imagine showing up at a party dressed like the opposite gender, pretending to be invisible to the bouncers, and then slipping in to talk to your crush before anyone notices. Risky? Sure. But if it works, mission accomplished. Cuckoo wasps remind us that in nature, there's more than one way to win. Sometimes the sneakiest player on the field ends up being the real winner. And in their case, that victory means future generations of shimmering little jewel wasps. Cuttlefish cross-dressing. When you're a small cuttlefish surrounded by big macho rivals, you can either give up or pull the ultimate trick. Dress up like a girl and sneak in a quick romance right under their noses. Cuttlefish are the shape-shifting masters of the ocean. With their ability to change color, texture, and even patterns on their skin in a fraction of a second, they're basically swimming mood rings. And during mating season, the males put these abilities to use in a way that's both brilliant and hilarious. Here's the problem. Big dominant males guard females aggressively, flashing bold, high-contrast patterns to warn other males to stay away. Smaller males usually don't stand a chance in a direct fight. They'd just get chased off before getting anywhere near the ladies. But evolution gave these sneaker males a secret weapon: cross-dressing. Instead of challenging the alpha male, a small male cuttlefish will change his color pattern to look more like a female, soft, mottled, and non-threatening. To complete the disguise, he even tucks in his outer arms, mimicking the female's body shape. Then, while the dominant male is distracted guarding his harem, the disguised sneaker male sidles up to the real female. Because he looks like just another girl hanging out nearby, the alpha male doesn't attack. And before anyone realizes what's happening, the smaller male mates with the female and swims away. Mission accomplished. Scientists have documented entire teams of sneaker males sneaking in like this, sometimes even timing their moves together so the big male can't catch them all. In some cuttlefish populations, these clever tricksters are responsible for a surprisingly large share of the matings each season. It's not just a free-for-all, though. Females actually seem to approve of the sneaky suitors. Studies show that females often mate willingly with disguised males, suggesting they're not just passive participants, but are actively choosing to diversify their offspring's genes by mating with multiple males. From an evolutionary perspective, this strategy is brilliant. The big males still get plenty of matings through brute force, but the clever small males keep their genes in the mix without wasting energy on dangerous fights. It's a perfect example of alternative mating tactics, keeping a population healthy and diverse. From a human perspective, it's hard not to be impressed and a little amused. Imagine a rival sneaking into a VIP section by dressing as staff, shaking hands with everyone, and leaving with the guest of honor before security even realizes it. Cuttlefish remind us that sometimes brains beat brawn, especially when you can literally change your outfit in less than a second.
Bees' explosive genitalia. Some romantic gestures are over the top, but for male honeybees, mating is literally the last thing they ever do. Their genitals explode and they die in mid-air. Honeybees live in one of the most organized societies in the animal kingdom, with thousands of workers, a single queen, and just a few dozen males called drones. And for a drone, life has a single purpose: mate with the queen. That's it. They don't collect nectar. They don't build honeycomb. They just hang out, eat, and wait for their one big chance. When a virgin queen bee takes her nuptial flight, she soars high into the sky, and dozens of drones chase after her in a frenzied race. Only a few lucky winners will actually mate with her, but winning comes at a very steep price. Here's what happens. As soon as a drone successfully mates with the queen mid-flight, his endophallus, the bee version of a penis, is literally torn from his body. It stays lodged inside the queen as a kind of mating plug, preventing other males' sperm from getting in immediately. Meanwhile, the drone falls away and dies almost instantly from the catastrophic injury. And the queen? She doesn't stop. She keeps flying and mates with multiple drones in a single flight, collecting enough sperm to fertilize eggs for years, sometimes for the rest of her life. By the end of her journey, she'll have mated with 10 to 20 males, each of whom dies after their turn. It might sound gruesome, but from an evolutionary standpoint, this system is genius. The drones ensured their genes are passed on at the cost of their own lives, and the queen ends up with a genetically diverse collection of sperm, which keeps the hive population healthy and resilient. There's even a dramatic sound effect. Scientists have recorded an audible pop during the mating process as the drone's genitals rupture. It's like nature's own firework display to mark the end of the line. For the drones that never get to mate, life doesn't end much better. Once the mating season is over, the worker bees often drag the remaining drones out of the hive and leave them to die, since they no longer serve a purpose and would just eat up winter food stores. From a human perspective, this is equal parts tragic and impressive. Imagine if the ultimate romantic gesture came with a guaranteed death sentence, and you still lined up for the chance to do it. That's the life of a drone bee. Short, single-minded, and spectacularly explosive.
Opossum double vaginas. Opossums may look like scruffy little trash pandas, but their love lives are anything but ordinary. The females have 2 vaginas, and the males have forked penises to match. Marsupials like opossums already have unique reproductive systems. After all, they give birth to tiny, underdeveloped babies that crawl into a pouch to finish growing. But opossums take reproductive weirdness one step further, with some of the strangest anatomy in the mammal world. Female opossums don't just have a single reproductive canal. They have 2 separate vaginas, plus a 3rd central canal they use for giving birth. The left and right vaginas each lead to a separate uterus,
meaning the female can be pregnant in both at once, carrying 2 litters of developing embryos simultaneously. And here's where the male comes in. He has a bifurcated or forked penis, perfectly designed to deliver sperm into both of the female's vaginas. This isn't a glitch. It's an evolutionary feature that ensures both uteri can be fertilized at the same time, maximizing the number of offspring she can produce. This unique system is part of why marsupials can be such prolific breeders. A female opossum can have large litters, sometimes up to 20 tiny jelly bean-sized babies at once. And because the pregnancy itself is so short, just about 2 weeks, she can have multiple litters in a single year. The forked penis used to confuse early scientists, by the way. In the 1800s, some naturalists thought they had discovered a mutant animal because the anatomy looked so strange compared to other mammals. It wasn't until more detailed studies were done that they realized this is just how opossums and many marsupials are built. From an evolutionary perspective, this double-track reproductive system is brilliant. It allows for high reproductive output, which is especially useful for an animal that doesn't live very long. Opossums only make it about 2 to 4 years in the wild. The more babies she can produce quickly, the better chance some will survive predators, cars, and other dangers. From a human perspective, though, it's equal parts fascinating and a little funny. Imagine trying to explain to someone that your species has double reproductive plumbing and that the guys have matching forked equipment just to make sure everything lines up. It's a perfect example of how evolution solves problems in weird but efficient ways. Opossums may look clumsy when they hiss at you from the trash can, but their biology is built for one thing: making sure the next generation arrives on schedule.
Praying mantis cannibalism. Dinner and a date? For female praying mantises, it's dinner during the date, and sometimes the dinner is the date. Praying mantises are already intimidating predators with their spiky forelegs and alien-like triangular heads, but their mating ritual is one of the most notorious in the animal kingdom, and for good reason. Here's what happens. When a male mantis finds a receptive female, he has to approach carefully. Females are bigger, hungrier, and, depending on their mood, sometimes a little murderous. If the male gets too close too quickly, he risks being mistaken for lunch. If he makes it onto her back and starts mating, he's not necessarily safe either. In some species, the female will turn her head around and bite his head clean off mid-mating. This sounds like the worst possible outcome for the male, but weirdly, it can actually improve his chances of fatherhood. Here's why. The male's body keeps mating even after his head is gone, thanks to nerve centers in his abdomen that take over. In fact, without the brain holding things back, the body sometimes mates more vigorously, transferring more sperm. In other words, getting decapitated might actually make him a better dad. Not all mantis matings end this way. In fact, in the wild, sexual cannibalism is less common than people think. Well-fed females are less likely to eat their partners. But when food is scarce, the male's body becomes a convenient post-mating protein boost that helps the female produce more eggs. From an evolutionary perspective, this grim ritual might actually be beneficial for both parties.
The female gets a nutritious meal that boosts her reproductive output, and the male ensures his genes get passed on, even if it costs him his life. For an insect, that's a fair trade. Scientists have even observed males deliberately approaching hungry females as if taking the risk is worth it. It's the ultimate go big or go home mating strategy, where go home usually means you don't get to reproduce at all. From a human perspective, this is equal parts terrifying and fascinating. Imagine going on a date knowing there's a decent chance your date might eat you halfway through, but doing it anyway because it's the only way to pass on your genes. Talk about commitment. Praying mantises may have one of the most infamous love lives in nature, but they remind us that reproduction is often a life-or-death gamble. Sometimes, for the next generation to exist, someone's got to make the ultimate sacrifice.
Australian redback self-sacrifice. Most guys try to survive the dating process. Male redback spiders? They literally throw themselves into the female's jaws on purpose. Australian redback spiders, close relatives of the infamous black widow, are already pretty intimidating, with females that can be many times larger than the males, and venom strong enough to take down animals much bigger than them. But what really sets them apart is the male's shocking mating strategy: sexual self-sacrifice. Here's how it goes down. When a male redback finally finds a female, which is rare enough, they have to travel long distances and risk getting eaten before even saying hello. He carefully approaches her web. He performs a kind of courtship tap dance, plucking the silk threads to let her know he's a suitor, not dinner. If she's receptive, mating begins. But here's the twist. While mating, the male deliberately somersaults, flipping his body so that his abdomen lands directly in front of her fangs. She bites and begins eating him alive while he continues to mate. Why would he do this? Because in redbacks, females can mate with multiple males, and sperm competition is fierce. By offering himself as a meal, the male buys extra time. She's too busy eating him to kick him off or mate with someone else. The longer he stays connected, the more sperm he can transfer, dramatically increasing his chances of fathering her future offspring. In fact, studies show that males who sacrifice themselves this way fertilize twice as many eggs as those who manage to escape. For a male redback who may never find another female again, this is the ultimate gamble, and for many, it pays off. And if that wasn't wild enough, some males go for a second mating attempt after the first, presenting themselves for yet another bite, which usually finishes them off completely. Talk about commitment. From an evolutionary standpoint, this strategy makes perfect sense. Males are small, have limited mating opportunities, and don't live very long. So maximizing paternity with one female, even at the cost of their lives, is their best shot at passing on their genes. From a human perspective, though, it's both tragic and kind of poetic. Imagine dating being so competitive that the best way to win was to literally throw yourself into your date dinner plate so no one else got a chance. Australian redbacks prove that sometimes love is about going all in,
even if it means becoming dinner.
Honeybee, mating flight, death. Some creatures mate and live to tell the tale. Male honeybees, they mate once, and it's literally the last thing they ever do. Male honeybees, called drones, have one job in life: mate with a queen. They don't gather nectar, don't build honeycomb, and don't defend the hive. Their entire existence is about that one perfect moment when a queen takes her nuptial flight. Here's how it works. When a virgin queen bee is ready to mate, she takes off into the sky, often flying to special drone congregation areas where males from many different hives are waiting. The drones chase her at top speed, competing mid-air to be the lucky few who actually catch her. When a drone manages to mate with the queen, the process is both spectacular and deadly. His endophallus, the bee's reproductive organ, literally everts, turning inside out and locks into her. As he finishes transferring sperm, the endophallus snaps off, remaining inside her as a mating plug. The result? The drone falls away and dies almost instantly. There's no recovery, no second chance. That single mating is his entire life's purpose fulfilled. But here's the twist. The queen doesn't stop. She mates with multiple drones during a single flight, sometimes 10, 20 in a row, collecting enough sperm to fertilize eggs for several years. Each drone dies after his turn, and by the end of her flight, she carries a lifetime supply of genetic material back to the hive. This brutal but efficient system ensures that the queen's offspring will have a diverse genetic mix, which is key for hive health and survival. Colonies with genetically diverse workers are better at fighting disease, gathering food, and keeping the hive running smoothly. For the drones left behind who didn't get to mate, things don't end much better. Once the breeding season is over, worker bees often evict them from the hive, leaving them to starve. Harsh, but it keeps precious food stores for the bees who actually keep the colony alive. From an evolutionary standpoint, this system is brilliant. It maximizes genetic diversity, ensures only the fastest, strongest drones get to reproduce, and keeps the queen fertile for years. From a human perspective, though, it's a little tragic. Imagine if the ultimate romantic moment also came with a guaranteed death sentence, and you still lined up for the chance to do it. Talk about dedication. So next time you see bees buzzing peacefully around flowers, remember that inside the hive there are drones just waiting for their one shot at glory and their one very final date in the sky.
Water Strider Surface Battles. Dating can be a negotiation, but for water striders, it's more like a hostage situation on a pond. Water striders are those elegant little insects you see skating effortlessly across ponds and streams, using their long legs to stay on top of the water's surface tension. They look peaceful, but their love lives are anything but gentle. When it's time to mate, male water striders take a rather forceful approach. Instead of wooing the females with dances or gifts, males often jump directly onto their backs and try to copulate immediately. Females, however, aren't always thrilled with this ambush style of romance, and they frequently resist. Here's where it gets wild. Male water striders have evolved special grasping structures on their legs to hold females in place, while females have evolved spines and shapes on their bodies to block unwanted mating attempts. It's an evolutionary arms race, each side developing better tools for either holding on or fighting back. And then there's the most extreme tactic: surface vibration harassment. Some male water striders, when a female resists, begin tapping their legs rapidly on the water surface, creating ripples that mimic the vibrations predators like fish use to home in on prey. This is basically a threat. Mate with me now, or I might attract something that will eat both of us. If the female gives in, mating happens quickly. If not, the male may escalate or simply hop away to try again with another female. It's not exactly a romance novel, but it does get results. And in the insect world, results mean passing on your genes. Interestingly, not all water striders rely on harassment. In some species, females actually choose males based on how efficiently they can produce ripples, preferring males who are better communicators rather than just bullies. So there is a strange kind of sexual selection going on, even in this tense courtship ritual. From an evolutionary standpoint, this behavior ensures that persistent males, the ones who are most determined to reproduce, are the ones who succeed. It also drives females to develop better defenses, which keeps the species in a constant state of adaptation. From a human perspective, though, it's pretty wild. Imagine dating negotiations where your crush could call in a threat of danger just to get you to say yes faster. It's equal parts clever and terrifying. Water striders may look like calm, graceful insects gliding on ponds, but under the surface, literally, their love lives are full of strategy, pressure tactics, and ripple-based ultimatums.
Giant water bugs back brooding. In most animal couples, it's the moms who carry the babies. But for giant water bugs, Dad literally wears the kids on his back until they hatch, like the ultimate walking daycare. Giant water bugs, also called toe biters. Yes, they can bite your toe, and it hurts. are some of the largest true bugs in the insect world, and some of the most devoted dads. Found in ponds and slow-moving streams, they are fierce predators, capable of taking down tadpoles, fish, and even small frogs. But during mating season, these fierce hunters take on a completely different role: baby carriers. Here's how it happens. After mating, the female lays dozens of eggs, but instead of sticking them to plants or floating debris, she glues them directly onto the male's back. Once she's done, her job is over, and she leaves. From that moment on, the male is on full-time egg duty. Carrying the eggs is no small task. The male has to keep them aerated, moist, and safe from predators. He does this by regularly coming up to the water's surface to expose the eggs to fresh air, gently stroking them with his hind legs to keep them clean, and sometimes even fanning them to prevent fungus from growing. This back-brooding behavior isn't just adorable, it's an evolutionary strategy that boosts survival. Eggs left unattended in the water would be much more vulnerable to being eaten or suffocating without proper oxygen flow. By having the father protect them, the chances of more eggs hatching successfully skyrocket. And it's no easy job. Those eggs can make up a significant portion of the male's weight, slowing him down and making him a more tempting target for predators. But he still carries them diligently until they hatch, usually after 1 to 2 weeks. When the tiny nymphs finally emerge, they scatter into the water to begin their own lives, leaving dad egg-free and ready to mate again. From an evolutionary perspective, this is a great example of male parental investment. By taking on the responsibility of guarding and maintaining the eggs, the male increases his own reproductive success. After all, those eggs are his future offspring. From a human perspective, it's kind of endearing. Imagine if dads wore baby carriers 24/7, except instead of one baby, they had 50 strapped to their backs and had to stop every few minutes to fan them so they wouldn't overheat. Giant water bugs may have a fierce reputation, but when it comes to fatherhood, they might just be some of the most hard-working dads in the animal kingdom.